your fingers disappear. Whoop, where's my
Funky,
phone
I'm
going?
recording.
Ah!
Funky,
Oh, yes.
funky fingers.
Ah!
Ooh.
Like this glitch,
Awesome.
like here's what I keep thinking about is like all of the new aesthetics being created in this weird time. So it's like this glitch, this Zoom glitch
Right.
is an aesthetic
It
that's gonna
is.
happen.
Like,
And then now you're
no
seeing like
MTV
everybody make
raps
fun
on
of
me.
people's backgrounds in their Zoom, make fun of people's house. So now people are self-conscious about that. So now you got the the blurred room out of a magazine aesthetic that's happening.
Right.
You know, like one of my colleagues that I was in a meeting with, I was looking at her background going, no way you live there. No way. I know what we all get paid. No way.
Yeah, there's a fake office I use sometimes, but it has a watermark on it. And then but people still think it's my real office. I'm like, oh no, that's not my office.
I actually had a job interview and I had to clean my house for a job interview, and I've never had to do that before.
Oh
Like
man.
I not only had to make sure I looked okay, but I had to like look behind me, and then I realized it's like, oh my God, here, wait, I'll stop this for a second and like I'll take my background off for a minute. Like then I realized in the middle of the interview, oh my God, there's nothing but liquor bottles back there. It's all liquor bottles. I look like an alcoholic. Like
I'm
what the
like, don't
hell?
worry, all your new coworkers also drink like fish. No, not that you drink like fish, but like,
No, yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is I don't hardly drink at
yeah.
all. I just used to be a bartender and I love mixing cocktails if somebody comes over. So when I was a kid, my parents had a liquor cabinet, and to me it was like the mark of a grown-up that you
Yeah.
offer a guest a cocktail and like a nicely made cocktail. And then by the time I left the house, my parents' liquor cabinet was like water and food coloring mostly. Because
I think I thought that too for a long time, even up until like almost 3 years ago. I moved here. I was like, I have to get wine and I have to get, all these things I don't even really drink. I just wanted to have them in the
yeah,
house.
like I had a bottle of vermouth for a million years because I thought I should be able to make a martini, and then it's like I don't really like making martinis anyway. So like why? Like it's such a nothing drink to make. Everybody acts like it's such a big deal. It's so easy, and I'd rather like make something creative. But to me, it's just kind of funny. Like my mom gave me some money when she sold her house, just like a small amount, and I invested it in starting my own T-shirt business, and I made a liquor cabinet because up until then I'd been drinking bottles of like Mad Dog or
Oh my.
like McCormick's vodka with Kool-Aid because I was like in my 20s, and
Hmm.
that's what you do. And
Yeah.
then when I got married, it was like that liquor cabinet dream was gone because he would just drink it all.
Okay. Yeah, that's frustrating. I
I
can, it's
know.
frustrating. Well, before we go any further, I want you to
Oh,
introduce yourself for people who
I know.
may not
Sorry, I just
know.
started blabbing because
No, it's okay. That's fun.
Zoom
That's what
fingers,
makes
Zoom
this fun, is
fingers.
it's improv.
Okay, so what should I say? I guess I'll say my name's Lauri Lynnxe Murphy. I am an artist and a writer and a teacher and a general weirdo, opinion haver, cat owner, snail wrangler, beekeeper,
Bio art person.
bio artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should say that bio artist and sculptor. I should stick with my sort of branding, but it's more fun to come up with just curator. That's another thing. I have a show opening Friday
You
online. An
what?
online show opening
Tell us
Friday.
more about that show. I didn't know about
Here,
that.
I will actually, if you'll allow me to take over and do a screen share, I'll like put up the. Oh,
As
you
long
have
as
it.
you give it back.
I will.
Bring
Yeah,
it
I
back?
can put up the
Okay.
invitation then.
Advanced sharing. Let's see. Oh, you're having me do this on the thing.
I'm
Let's
sorry.
see. Oh, who can share? All participants. There you go.
All right. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I can show it. So this is it. So
Rad.
this is actually a bioart show, and it's an online gallery that my colleagues at work put together and called Distance Gallery. And it's Joshua Fields and Shayna Cohn. It's their gallery. And
Cool.
so I pulled this together super, super fast and didn't know all of these artists, but did like, I love curating things. I'm always looking and I'm always making notes. And then every once in a while, an opportunity comes up and I just sort of jumped on this quickly, not realizing how much stress it was going to be because you think,
Oh,
oh, it's online, it'll be easy, but it's just as much work. The only
oh,
part
this is
that I don't have
exciting.
to do is like the hanging the actual show, but it opens on Friday
Okay.
online. And it's amazing because these are artists from all over the world. Like, Anna Dumitriou and Luke Jerram are both artists I've admired for a really long time that live in England. And Suzanne Anker is the head of sculpture at SVA and one of the people I think who coined the term bioart. She's been at it for a really long time and she's amazing. She's in New York.
Rad.
Um,
I see a
as is
couple of people I
Jennifer
know in there too.
Trammell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
see
some
a
are from Denver.
yeah.
And then Ken Ronaldo and Amy Youngs were my mentors in grad school,
Uh-huh.
and amazing, both amazing artists. And then the photo in the background is mine that I took from my microscope. So I have a microscope that I take pictures of things with. I don't remember what. I feel like it looks like it's part of a fern, but I think I remember it was slime mold, but I'm not really sure.
Well,
I
that's
have
pretty
to keep
rad.
notes on that. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Cool.
yeah, I've been so busy. Like I don't know what you want to talk about. Like
Well,
what our ultimate overarching
it's
theme is,
I
but
know there isn't really an overarching theme. I've just like jumped in and like I was just thinking about how like I think it's really important to connect. I was honestly feeling pretty lonely, and I also was realizing I was having like these informal coffee chats just with a bunch of folks, and we would leave the chats like having had like amazing conversations, and
yeah,
the juices would be flowing, and I'm like, oh, I have homework now, and I'd get really excited about those things, and so I was like, well, I've been wanting to do a lot of interviews and I've been trying to do it the right way or certain prescribed ways or whatever. And then finally I was just like, you know what, fuck it. These are the tools I have right now. I'm going to do 21 of these and then next step, so that I can like
right,
outrun my self-doubt.
yeah.
So that's essentially
I'm
what I'm doing.
I'm working on this for my class too, setting up video interviews with artists around the world for my class, and then I'm also working on putting together an online class that is not through my school, that's my own,
Cool.
because I feel like
Awesome.
the future of education is very
Yeah.
dicey, and this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. Like that, like I'll always get people saying, like when I was teaching professional practices at REMCAD, people would be like, "Oh, I so wish I could take that class," and there
Yeah.
was no way for me to offer it in a way that was like cost conscious for people. That it was like so
Yeah.
expensive. I looked at it and I wanted to do it a lot of times, and I thought about it, and like, but it was like 30 or 40 field trips, and it was so
Hmm.
much work, that class, and then you wouldn't want to have a huge number of students. So like I now can do that online. And so I'm going to be doing interviews for that with artists from around the world, and then like studio visits.
Okay.
And then also uh I want to do a class. There's all these people, the population that I used to teach at the Art Students League was a lot of people who, I mean, how hard life is, right? And how many things can throw
Hmm.
you off course. And it's like people get jobs or have kids or economic uncertainty or things that drive them away from their dreams. And then they
Right.
come back after they've made their money and they're retired and they have time and they're like, I want to do this, but I've lost the confidence and I've lost sort of the plot. I've lost the ability.
Right.
And so for years I've wanted to have a class that mentored people like that was about like helping you find your artist inside again.
See, that's amazing. I think that would be so invaluable because I mean I went back to my undergrad kind of late, in my late 30s, and there's this story that our society sells that as we age we're less and less worth something.
Yeah,
And I know we've talked about that before, especially like in the art world, like when you're really young, you're hot and like, like everyone loves you. And then people forget about you in your 30s and 40s and stuff. And then later in life, people get excited again. But
I mean, especially women, especially people of color. It's like, I've watched the career trajectories of the men that I started with, the men that I was showing alongside initially,
yeah.
and it's been a very different kind of career trajectory. I'm not going to lie, but like
Hmm.
at the same time, like I think what I have gained out of that, because I think there's always a flip side to things, even the bad things,
Hmm.
that like I have this ability to reinvent and approach things from a new direction. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized like I don't really care about the things I cared about when I was young. Like I don't
Yeah.
like I thought, oh, I really want to be in this museum and I really want to be famous and I really want to be, all the things you're taught to want that are really about external things, not so much about
Right.
your
It's not about
relationship to
doing
the
the
work.
art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not about what you're doing. And more,
Sorry.
I feel like I have a total mission. And so it's really interesting just noting what I've learned in my life and what my own responses are to crisis.
Mhm.
Because I think back and it's like, when 9/11 happened, I was right at the precipice of like amazing things happening in my career,
Mm.
and galleries in New York interested and on the final stage of a grant that I was hoping to get, and had just had a big show in Santa Fe and had all this amazing stuff happening that I was so excited about. And I was like, I'm finally there. I finally, like all the things I worked for, I'm finally there,
And then
And then
yeah,
9/11 undid all of it. And my response at that time was just huge amounts of depression, a lot of difficulty working and not wanting to be an artist anymore, because I felt like all these people are going to New York and helping out, these like first responders and people who have
right.
something to give to the world. And what am I doing? I'm making pornographic stuffed animals. That's what I was doing at the time. I was making paintings and pornographic stuffed animals. And that was not what the world needed in that moment. And that was, externally directed work in a lot of ways. Like, yes, it had an element underneath it that I didn't talk about that was more about child abuse,
Mhm.
but I didn't, that nobody wants to buy that. Nobody, that's not sexy. So I
Right.
didn't really talk about that part of it, but like, I found myself lost and not being able to make that work and not knowing what work to make. And also financially, from a financial perspective, like my entire income stopped and I was adrift and didn't know what to do. And this time, what I've learned from that, number one, is don't let the fucking grass grow for a second. The minute we went home, the minute this started, I was like, okay, how am I going to diversify my income? What are my projects that I'm going to be focused on now?
Mhm.
Everything's changed. How does this change my work? But my work overall has a mission now that it's not have then, that I had not reified and found then. So now it's like, now that my work is about extinction and climate change, something like the coronavirus comes along and I'm like, well, this fits right in. This is right at home.
Yeah, now
This
it
has all
hits.
the place in the world to grow within my work. And so to me, like the thing that I did differently this time that saved me, number one, was that I had that mission, and I only feel it stronger now. I don't necessarily feel pushed away from it.
Mhm.
But number two, I didn't take that beat and just allow myself to be in the feelings and be sad. I was like, nope, this is a recipe for depression. And financially, you're going to be devastated if you let a minute pass that you're not working. So
Right.
while everybody else is sitting there baking bread and being bored, I'm working my freaking ass off, harder than I have ever, just because I don't want to lose everything again. I've already rebuilt my life and career 3 times
Right.
from this
Well,
kind of shit happening.
something I wanted to say is like, I think that this is something I learned from David Hicks, one of the founders of the Regis Mile High MFA, is and I'm other people have told me this too, and it's just like it's so easy to like feel really down and like, you know, some work I did last summer at some of the retreats I went to and whatnot, I just felt like I wasn't doing the right work. I felt like my work was very selfish and maybe young and very myopic. And
I felt that way. That's exactly what I'm describing. That's well
but
put. Yeah.
the thing is though, it is my work. It's the work that I need to be doing. I need to get it out. And there's something important there for someone. And it might not be, you know, the penultimate thing that we need to hear right now, but I still need to get that done and get it out of the way. And I
Yeah.
have for a really long time, you know, and like just haven't, because I'm like, oh, you know, someone's gonna be mad, or oh, it's just, you know, me dealing with my shit or whatever it is,
But
you
see,
know.
that's also the external focus. It's so
Mhm.
funny because I sent you that thing about, uh, wanting to hear your name in that Fiona Apple song, that it's like,
Oh.
I kind of knew it was Shamika. And the first time I heard it, I didn't know. And I was like, and then I could hear it after the second or third time she said it, but I was like very stubborn about it in my head. Like,
Yeah,
no.
seriously, like 4 or 5 people now have like, Fiona Apple said your name wrong.
But it's also not just that. It's also like the song itself and what she's saying in it. It's like that, yeah, it's cool. So,
I'm like,
but
oh,
I just
is that
realized, I just had this realization with this album that like, Bob was like, "Oh, you should hear this new Fiona Apple album. It's great." And I was like, "Yeah, I haven't listened to Fiona Apple in a really
in a
long
long
time."
time, yeah.
Then when I started to think about why, and she's had this whole rich career, and then when I started to think about why, I was like, I got shamed out of liking Fiona Apple by dudes. That is a
Yeah.
God's honest story. And there's so much music and there's so much art and there's so much literature that I liked, and it wasn't cool enough by the standards of the people around me, mostly
Yeah.
guys. And that is how pervasive sexism is for
Mhm.
us, is that like it's so internalized that I had cheated myself of this artist that I really loved
Did
and had
you
found.
did you have an experience where like a lot of the male, so like I started out with music, and I've gotten really down about music and haven't done a lot of it, kind of because of, I didn't have good guides, and so like the and I didn't have enough gumption of my own, I guess, too, I should say. But like the guys, they were always like, they always wanted to be my teacher, and like always,
Yes.
and so like the things that I loved,
Play it like this.
yeah, I'm like, this is cool, man, cool. Yeah, it's a little straight ahead though, and like I
I was
really
part
want
of a
to do
pretty
this
well-known
crazy
band that I'm
shit.
not going to name here since this will be on YouTube, but I was part of a fairly well-known band that I lasted in for a week because of that shit.
Oh
Because
my
it was like,
god.
play it like this. No, you got to stop everything. You got to play it like this. Because they
Yeah.
needed me to be the last bass player instead of having my own style.
Why is that so hard? Like I just feel like as female presenting person, I've been asked a lot to be like, the icing on the cake, and like, dress nice, look nice, and you're just gonna sing these cute little bits, and everyone else is gonna get to do whatever. And I was always really frustrated with that. That's because I like experimentation, and I like pushing the grain, and
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like I
This
want to
is, oh,
scream
I have
like
so
a
much to say.
horn.
There's so much to say about this. I mean, one example, when I was young, I did everything. I was like really sort of the Renaissance person, and I was told all the time, no, you can't do that. You have to focus. You have to focus. But like
Mm,
I was an artist, I was a cartoonist. I was playing in punk rock bands and singing, and I wanted to be a folk singer, but I didn't have the guts to like go against my time.
yeah.
So I was trying to be a punk rock singer, and I
Now you
wasn't.
just don't care.
No,
Now you're
but I
just
was in
always like,
choirs too. I was doing choirs. I was, so, and I was acting. So it's like I had all this, and I was writing. I was doing all these things, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're just gonna be a dilettante. You got to pick one." And I was good at all of
mm.
them, and I don't know. Like I kind of feel like an asshole saying that, but I'm just gonna say it. It's the truth. I was good at all of them. I was
There are a
really good.
lot of us like that.
It's all the same in my head.
Yeah.
It's all the same in my head, and that's
Mhm.
all. That's the only way I can describe it. But like I was acting, and I was in a really awesome play, a Rainer Werner Fassbinder play called Pre-Paradise Sorry Now, that's all about fascism and oppression and murder, and very dark, very, very experimental. And the play is bookended. So there's a chorus, there's like a Greek chorus that plays out all sorts of different parts in the middle. And then it's bookended on each end by these two vignettes with Myra Hindley and Ian somebody can Google it. I don't remember the name. But it's these two murderers and that are really famous in Britain.
Okay.
And I did that play, and it was so intense. It was so intense, and I was
You
I
did
think
this
I
in
was
high school?
maybe 19 or 20, huh?
20. Okay.
Yeah, I
Just
was
after
really
high
young,
school.
and our play got written up all over everywhere. I
Mhm.
mean, first of all, we had I can't even believe we did this because the times it seems so weird. But back then we had swastikas on the posters that we spray painted on the posters and put them up around town. You
Whoa.
would never do that now, and caveat,
Whoa.
I'm Jewish, so it's like even worse.
Yeah.
But like, but it was really well received. There'd never been, like, Denver was a little cow town. There was not things like that here. And so all of the theater critics wrote about it. I got special mention and everything. And after that experience, I got offered a part like almost immediately, like standing outside after the closing night. I got offered a part in Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean, which is like not a thing then. It was a brand new play. It's a brand new play. And I said no because there were a few things. Number one, I was absolutely spent on having to worry about my physical appearance
Mm.
and on being critiqued on my physical appearance from
Yeah.
acting and from performing. And number two, I wanted to do another Pre-Paradise Sorry Now. I didn't want to, I mean, yeah, Come Back to the Five. And now I know what it is. The way it was pitched at the time, very different. But I couldn't picture doing musical theater ever again after that experience. Like I had to
Mhm.
play a child rape victim who was like backed up against the audience because it's theater in the round, backed up against the audience, kind of like crab crawling away while these two men slithered towards me. And then I start screaming, "Mommy, mommy." And I heard my mom behind me in the audience start crying.
Oh,
Very
wow.
distracting. But like I had had this intense experience with this play.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's nothing where, like, it wasn't even somebody who, it was an out of town director that came here. It wasn't even like a thing that was here. There was no place for me to go with that. There just wasn't a
Yeah.
place. And then the gendered aspect of it was really heavy. It's like, yeah, I want to act. I don't really want to think about how I look or if I'm too fat or if I should change
Yeah.
it. Just all this constant
I
critique of your looks.
I got that a lot as a singer too. Like that's the
Yeah.
first thing out of anyone's mouths. Like, oh, what was she wearing? And and that would stress me out a lot because I'm not the greatest dresser. I need help in that department.
I would disagree with you. I love
I
a good.
I don't know. It's the stuff that looks good on stage is different than running around town. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and the stuff that looks good to the male gaze looks different than
Yep.
to my gaze. Like it's,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, like I did used to dress like that for tips, because it was like the
And I've
economic reality is never who I was, but
yeah.
it was what was necessary. And I mean, the other story I have about, you were talking about like men wanting to teach you, like this is a really sad
Oh,
thing is that,
yeah.
like, I mean, I used to sing quite a bit. I was the youngest person ever in Colorado Chorale at the time. And
Mhm.
that was sad because I quit because I couldn't afford to go to Europe with them and I didn't
Oh,
ask for
no.
money. I didn't ask for help. I was just like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm a poor person. I can't
I've
go.
been there. Yep.
So sad because as the youngest member, of course, all those people would have helped me out. Now I know that now that I'm older, of course I could.
You're
I
like, dang.
I had so much shame about it, because I was just a waitress and, I didn't feel like, "Oh, I'm just a waitress. I shouldn't be allowed to go to Europe with a choir." It's so sad. But like, no, the worst part of this is that I gave up singing predominantly because of Rick when I got married. Like he was very critical of my singing all the time. And I looked up to him as this like amazing musician and who
Mhm.
who is he is an amazing musician, but he's not a
Mhm.
singer. He has a very lovely voice, but he's not a singer. And so
Oh,
it's really sad. And the other thing that was happening around that time that caused me to give up is I was having not stage fright per se, but an overwhelm of emotion when I was singing to where I wanted to cry
yeah.
and I couldn't control my voice then and my lips would sort of start to shake and I was really embarrassed about showing any emotion even though
Yeah.
that's the fucking job. Like
Yeah. I
that's why
think
you're doing it.
I remember this one time, like, I was singing this very, like, intense, like, angry thing. It was, like, this tribal hippie dippy thing I was doing in Boise, Idaho, and, at this little place called the Culture Clash. It was, like, a vegan, vegetarian place, and that was where I learned about tempeh, and they had a
Oh
juice bar.
God, it's been years since I've eaten tempeh.
I
Man.
had friends with beads in their beards, and, like, one was in the band, and, I just remember I was, like, pretty much screaming something, and I was, like, feeling this intensity, and I looked at someone, I happened to see someone, and I all of a sudden had, like, all of this fear, like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Like, this is why am I screaming this?
Like it pulls you out of the moment, like you're in the flow state making work and then it pulls you out of the moment to think about
Well,
your external self.
I was worried about the kinda energy I was putting out there, like, the kind of energy that was coming up in that moment, and I was wondering what I overthink everything.
See, but this is what's done to us as women is to cause us to do this, and it's really sad that like this is like for example, I've had a couple videos go viral where I'm like yelling at city council or something, and every single time I'm just like so self-conscious about how I look or like the fact that I'm showing too much emotion or
Mm,
the fact that my voice broke in a place or like that hypercriticality and it comes at us from the world too. It's like, there's been like several times where I've been in a video, like the 9 News video really stands out because I was really proud of that and I was really excited about it. And then one of the first comments somebody made is just fat. Fat, it's
Yeah.
one word, fat.
Don't read the comments.
I
That's
don't
the
remember
one.
any other fucking comments but that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
why?
I was told don't, because I was doing a lot of writing for, an online, I call it regurgitated news website. And I eh, there were some things that I wrote outside of my assignments because I was trying to build a portfolio too.
I
And
remember.
yeah, and I mean I still have all those articles. It's just, it doesn't look good on Blogger. But like the comments on some of my, if I had even remotely said anything like subversive or feminist or whatever kind of politics, I'm a person of color and queer, whatever, like those kinds of things, there would be comments and they were very hurtful.
Oh, so
um
mean and cruel.
just
Yeah.
any, just small, like just not even full on, just like I'm stepping in with two little toes, and then yeah, the comments would come. And I started not reading the comments at all, because
It's
that was,
wise. It's
yeah.
wise. Like I got, I mean, I'm a really early adopter to online community, online technology, and like really early, like back in the days when your modem made squeaky weird noises and dialing into a dial-up,
Yeah.
Like I've done this my whole life. And before Facebook, there were just a variety of, bulletin boards and things that you use. And I remember, on Craigslist has forums, and the crazy thing about it is you can make like your own forum just by typing a number in and
Hmm.
picking one of the empty forums. And so there's like, it's a pretty funny thing to explore. If you go to the Craigslist forums and you start typing in random numbers, you can find, I've
Oh.
found like sexting between people, and I've found like just so many weird things, just weird, like just, it's almost like a weird place for like text-based performance art for internet weirdo
Oh
trolls,
my goodness.
but
Wow.
yeah, but like, but I was a participant in one of the forums there, and there was no, like, it was more based on 4chan, where you don't have any, you're allowed anonymity, right? You make your handle, nobody knows who you are.
Hmm.
And Craig was so beholden to that like you had to get a lawyer to find out the IP of somebody harassing you.
Hmm.
And so I gained a fun little pet on Craigslist that was like an online stalker, or maybe multiple people. I'm not sure. They just
Shoot.
decided they hated me. And we had like a secret sort of like those back channel rooms, that we started to get away from the trolls, to have serious conversations. Some of the people on there
Yeah.
who I'm still friends with, a lot of them. And it just got insane and ridiculous. It was like, the trolling, I mean, somewhere, I was keeping links to it, and then now the links don't work anymore, and somewhere I have a file of a bunch of this shit too. But like from, suggesting I should die in an oven, to fat shaming, to finding pictures of me on the internet and sharing them, to doxing me, to rape threats, to just all of it, just all of the things. And I found it so upsetting at the time. It was so new to me at the time, even though I'd been on the internet a long time, and I was really bullied a lot in school, and it brought back like a lot of that stuff.
Right.
And just really like destabilizing emotionally on so many levels. But as time went on, and this person kept following me around the internet for like 10 years, just obsessively. And
Wow.
again, I don't know who this person is. I would have to hire a lawyer to find out who this person is. At one point, they got my phone number, and that's how I lost my 303 number. And I will die mad about that. I will be forever mad,
Damn.
because 303 number in Colorado, man, that's like old
Yeah.
school, you
Yeah.
know? And I called the police when they got my phone number, and the police were like, "We'll just stay off the internet." And it's like, yeah, sure, that helps. Sure. They're
Yeah.
sending me death threats, so I should stay off the internet. Because then not seeing them means I'm safer, right? Uh, but after a while, like, as far as I know, this person is one of my Facebook friends, because I finally realized privacy on the internet's an illusion. I don't try to
Right.
do things privately, because there's no such thing. It's just going to get hacked. So, for all I know, they're still following me. I think the last time I saw them say anything about me was probably about 3 years ago on one of my blogs, I think on Westward or something.
Hmm.
And their writing style is familiar enough to me now that I know it's them. But like at the same time, I'm just like, I almost have to be flattered. Like 10 years of obsession with little old me. and I don't know what I ever said to them. I could be pretty mean back then. I can be an internet troll myself sometimes. I'm pretty opinionated and I can be mean, and I try to really not do that anymore because it's not who I want to be.
Right.
But at the time, I think there were a lot of times, like I'm the person who, if I see somebody else getting beat up, I'm jumping in. I'm like the person who's going to defend the underdog every time. And so probably there was a fight and I jumped in, and who knows, or maybe, maybe I said I didn't like somebody's art. I don't really know. I really have no idea what I did to make this person hate me so much, but it's like they love me. They don't hate me. They love me because they
Mhm.
just constantly, I don't know who, I don't think about them until they show up, and I don't know who they are, but they have followed me from website to website for many years.
Damn. That's dedicated.
I mean, I
Dedicated.
don't even know if they still do, but there was a good 10-year span they were doing it. And it was like, what? Like, and they knew stuff about my life. They knew stuff about Denver. They knew who my friends were here. I have a pretty good idea now who it is.
Mhm.
There's a little group of middle-aged white men on Facebook that hate me and have blocked me and say terrible things about me. And one of them's my former painting professor. That's
Oh,
not nice.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I did to him that's so terrible?
what did you do?
I didn't ask him for a letter of recommendation for grad school. I'm a terrible person. That
Um,
meant he should trash talk me for years on Facebook to our mutual friends who tell me about it and are distressed. I had to send him a cease and desist letter.
I'm so sorry. That's
No,
see,
like
that's what I'm
middle-aged white
talking
men are
about.
fucking crazy though. What is the deal with that? Like, what is that? What did I ever do to any of them? And I think it's just jealousy.
Well,
I just think,
yeah, and I mean, in our fields, there's always a little bit of jealousy, right? But like, there's this weird thing happens when you're sometimes someone's student, and sometimes they want to have some kind of hold over the work you're doing. And some people, I mean, some people are obviously mentors and obviously have
yeah.
helped you and obviously have, without without expecting anything
He never
necessarily, or
did
even if
anything
they
to help me, but
do.
he expected me to help him. That was what was crazy. Is like he thought I
See,
should help his career, and I'm like, that's not
mm,
how this works, dude. That's not,
yeah.
and he was,
And it's
you
supposed to
know,
be a compliment, which is not, it's not.
and if I think back to like our relationship when I was in school, it was so inappropriate. It was like, I mean, I was in a relationship. I lived with Rick at the time, but like I was like his surrogate psychiatrist. Like he was going through a divorce, and it
That's
just was like
weird.
he'd call me up at 3 a.m. and say that he was going to get in a
Whoa.
fight, or he was drunk and I'd have to go pick him up, or I had to take him to the hospital a couple of times. It was
Real,
so
your professor?
yes, it was so inappropriate. It was so inappropriate. He'd call me at
No.
3 a.m. drunk. I mean, and I was a non-traditional college student. I was a little bit older,
Sure.
but I was still young. And I was
Right.
really, really naive and a first generation college student. So no one in my family could warn me about this shit. It's
Hoi.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my.
I paid for that. I'm still in debt for that treatment. Like that's the thing that's so sad when women are sexually harassed or like have those inappropriate relationships with professors. It's like you're paying for that. I
Oh,
wouldn't have.
that's that made me feel really weird. Oh, I mean, not. I'm definitely not laughing at that situation because that's messed up. And I
You
know
know what
some
I mean?
professors that have crossed some boundaries too. But like, and I know as a student, I definitely tried to. There were a couple of professors I wanted to date, and I told them so. But I was just like, we were like about the same age, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And like, luckily, I mean, at least one of them was like cool. They were like, I'm sorry, I don't do that.
No,
But
I
like,
mean it's one thing to do it, later. Like I'd
yeah,
say a year
no, like
after the class.
after, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and me
But I
as a
mean,
teacher,
I can't, I don't see my students in that way. I've had
yeah.
some very attractive students, don't get me wrong, but like, number one, I'm generally much older than them. But number two, it's like, it's just the power differential that's the problem.
Yeah,
Like,
it's never quite
I don't want
right.
that kind of relationship. I don't want a relationship where I feel like I have power over somebody. That's not my goal.
It's never, yeah, it never feels quite right. It's just like, it's just kind of, even after you finish school, it's there's always like that weird, like you're never going to become equals in their eyes, kind of. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's the same with everyone, but in these kinds of relationships, often it seems like it's like that. Maybe not always. I know some folks who have married the people they were dating when they weren't supposed
I
to.
mean,
But
my mentors in grad school, I think, met that way, and
yeah,
I think that there's some beautiful relationships that can come out of that. Obviously, shared
absolutely.
interests, obviously,
Right.
so many things in common. But
Right.
there's a right way and a wrong way, and I think that if you enter it not understanding the power differential as the person with the power,
Right.
even if it's minimal power, then it's always going to be uneven. It's
Yeah.
always going to be an uneven relationship, you know.
See, I think as a professor, I mean, I'm a new green professor, well, instructor of English. But like I
Right? Isn't
went,
it weird that whole professor, that
yeah,
word?
professor, I'm still, it's still
I
weird.
have bad feelings about it.
Me too. But like I think I was on too far the other side of having boundaries of like not being, those, I feel like those boundaries can move a little bit. I'm not dating my students. I'm not saying that,
No,
but I'm just saying like, how much do I need to, how much can I help and how much can I be in their lives and how much can I offer,
it's
those
hard
kinds of
because
things.
I feel like, especially now,
Yes.
before this, I feel like an unqualified, unpaid counselor, and yet I've been through a lot of therapy and my own stuff in life. And I had one student who her her issues were so similar to my issues, and I wound up telling her
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have told to another
Mhm.
student, but just as a way of like saying, hey, I went through this too, and you're going to be okay, and you're going to get out the other
Mhm.
side of it, you know. But
Yeah.
that experience is invaluable to me. And also too, I think that dealing with autistic kids, I have our numbers, I think I'm very curious as to why, because I think that our school is attracting a lot of neurodivergent kids because of game art and animation, and a lot of
Mhm.
those populations sort of intersect. And
Yeah.
but like with autistic kids especially, I think it's just so important to be so clear about boundaries, so aware of boundaries. And I didn't really realize until like we were staying home, like, I don't know, quarantine life not all that different from my normal life in some ways, because I stayed home a lot anyway, because this is where my work is, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, I miss going out. I miss a lot of things, but I mean, I think it's been an easier adjustment for me because I've done so much freelance. I'm sure same for you, that it's not that strange to be at home.
Well, I mean, actually for me it wasn't. I was working 5 jobs 7 days a week outside of
Yeah,
my home.
true.
And so now I'm starting to slow down a little bit and I'm like, I don't want to work any job outside of my home now because I've been able to slow down enough to be like, "Oh yeah, I really love doing these things, like slowing down and experimenting and writing,
I
like
I
things I
wish I
haven't
was
had
doing
time."
that. I wish I could do that. I need to learn to do that. I'm really the whole productivity conversation is a whole conversation. Like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
this is my list. Oh, it's
It's
weird
like
what's happening. It's yellow.
like a
Ooh,
green screen.
green screen. I can hide behind it. Oh, this is a fun discovery. But you know, it's like, I'm just driven by the list, and I'm like, you know, my ADHD is so much worse in this time, and
Yeah.
my circadian rhythms drive me to be awake stupid hours,
Oh,
and
dang. Yeah.
I'm trying really, like, I'm one of like 5% of the population that's like, oh, my best time is 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Like, you know, like that super late side of the late night person
Sure.
is when I'm really alive, and when my brain's alive and firing on all pistons, and I'm getting great ideas, and I'm creatively inspired and all that. It sucks because my class starts at 8 a.m. Uh, but
That's
I,
so early.
I know I let them choose online in this hybrid format, and they chose 9, which is still
Yeah.
earlier than I would have preferred, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that it's like, no, I am a hugger. I don't think of myself that way because I'm somebody who doesn't like to be touched by strangers, like, at all. Like, I will have a visceral, violent
Mhm.
reaction that will be unpredictable to all of us.
Yeah.
But
Don't touch
but
me.
yeah, no, like, I had one student that just kept running up behind me and hugging me, and I finally had to say, "You're gonna get knocked out. I'm serious. I don't mean to be that way, but like, it's nothing personal. I just That's the reaction, you know, you know,
Yeah.
like, I'm just
I
gonna get
get
rid of you,
that. I'm
you
a
know,
I'm a massage therapist and people just assume that I want them to touch me all the time and I don't.
I've
I
been touched way too much. I mean, I
Yeah.
worked in nightclubs for a long time, bars and music
Mhm.
scene and all of that, and just fucking keep your hands off me. And now in the time of the
Yeah.
pandemic,
Ask me first.
it's, oh God.
ask.
any man fucking touches me, I'm gonna throat punch the motherfucker. Like I
Ooh.
had this experience, like I swear to God, I was at the post office last week, and this fucking asshole with no mask on wanted to hold the door open for me and would not take no for an answer, to the point that we're
Yeah.
holding up traffic. And it was
Yep.
so fucking awkward. And then finally I had to like walk within a couple feet of him glaring at him. And I'm like, well, I never asked you for that. I've never asked anybody to hold a door open for me. Why? Why are you giving me a gift I did not want? You
Right.
know, it's power. It's not a gift, it's power. And
See, that brings me back to the whole, like, the males who want to be our mentors for whatever reason, giving us gifts that we never asked for or needed or wanted.
yeah,
Um, you know,
advice.
and or advice, or just like, and it'll come out of nowhere. And often it's stuff, what I found, and I know we've talked about this too, it's like often stuff I'm already working on or have figured out,
Hmm.
either on my own or through collaboration with other teachers or peers. And they're like, oh, you should do it this way. I'm like, first of all, stop shooting on me, and second of all,
Yeah.
I'm already doing this thing and I don't need your help. So
I mean,
like,
it's so frustrating in an art school environment in that sense. Like I am thinking of a colleague who I adore, absolutely adore. But I was setting up the drill press to use, and he came over to help me and show me how. And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
dude, I teach this.
That's
This is
so
what I teach.
frustrating. Yep.
This is like, get your hands off. And my dad did that to me when I was growing up. My dad was an amazing carpenter. I did not learn carpentry until I got to grad school
Oh,
because
wow. Because he would
I
do it.
didn't, yeah, because
Yeah.
at my undergrad, the sculpture teacher used to do the same thing that my dad did, take tools out of the girls' hands and do it for them. And my dad used to do that when I'd ask him to teach me
Oh,
things. And it was so infuriating. And so, and even as a teacher, I find sometimes like trouble asserting my authority, even though, I mean, I feel like that whole men wanting mentor me thing, it's going away as I get older, as I get a little more prominent, as I get a little more of a name.
yeah.
But
Well,
young
now
male
you'll
students,
just get, oh, you're so intimidating.
oh God, yeah, I've gotten that for years. Like, that's what I'm shooting for. Thanks. I really want to be intimidating. Thank you. Such a compliment. No, it's so weird when people say that. I hate that. Um, but no, like I remember I had this one group of male students, and they had this very basic like intro to the wood shop assignment where it's like, okay, you're gonna have to, I want them to figure it out on their own, and yet at the same time I'm there to help them, but I want them to like come to me with potential solutions for the problem so that they're thinking it
Right.
through with the tools they've been given and with the information they've been given. And so they had to countersink a screw, which means you sink a screw in with a special drill bit so that it falls below the surface of, so it's flush, so it's not sticking out. And I was watching these three young men in my classroom, just watching them trying to drill this hole and not being able to drill this hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over and I was like, do you guys need some help? And they're like, no, no, we got this. We got this. We got this. I'm like, okay. And I went back and sat and watched them a little longer.
Like, don't hurt yourselves.
They weren't figuring it out. There's three of them, three young men in their 20s, like, and I finally go over and I'm like, I see smoke. There's smoke. Is there supposed to be smoke? And they're like, no. And I'm like, do you need my help? And they're like, no, I think we can figure it out. And I'm like, okay, how many more sets of 10 minutes should I give you? Like, you've used up 2, you've used 20 minutes. So do you want another block of 10 before I go back and come back and ask you if you need help again? And they finally let me help them. And all I had to do was switch the drill out of reverse.
Oh,
Like, it was that simple.
I would be so embarrassed.
I wish it had
Oh,
the sense to be. They all laughed about it. They all thought it was funny. I think they were
that's
a
good.
little embarrassed, but like, it's that
They're
sense of
like, why can't we make
self-pride,
it
It's
be
like,
so simple?
I know, it's like
I,
they
I,
feel like because they're boys that they
yeah.
should be the ones that know how to use a drill, even though they've never used a drill.
I remember you saying before, I don't remember how long ago it was, but just how great it feels, like like how powerful it is to teach a girl or a female presenting or whatever person to like wield power tools and to
My
like wield
favorite
them in
part of my
space.
job, and it's really sad. We had a meeting today about that and what that's going to look like in the future. It's really sad to not have that element of my class because it's like so empowering. They've all been taught to be afraid. In the very best classes, everybody sort of applauds and like supports each other. But yeah, I mean, they feel like little badasses when they can
It's like,
use a freaking power saw, and they're terrified. People cry in this class on the
oh
regular on this day,
wow.
on woodshop training day. It's very intense. And some people, they I've had a couple students where I was like, okay, we're going to do a one-on-one later, like just if you feel too afraid. But watching people, especially watching women and femmes confront their fears, like in a society that's told them that that is a thing specifically not meant for them,
Sure.
is so exciting and so empowering. And so like I always go home that day just sort of walking on air, like I did my good deed in the world, like this is the thing that I have to give and this is what I gave. And they're all like, and they're confidently cutting wood now, and it's just like,
Nice.
and it's weird because it's very much my story. It's like, I mean, I didn't go to grad school
Mm-hmm.
until I was 48. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went to undergrad, gave up on using the power tools, and for all those years just hired other people to do things. And I
Mm.
knew how. I technically knew how. I didn't have access to tools and I didn't have confidence. And then I just got thrown into the freaking deep end when I went to grad school because they're like, okay, you're teaching this now. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, yeah,
Is it
okay.
fun when that happens? You're like, I'm not ready, and the universe is just like, you're ready.
How I feel every time I have
Do
to
it.
weld something. It's like I know how, I've done it before, but like, oh God, it's been a long time. Am I going to be able to do this? And I'm shooting fire to stick a metal. What the fuck?
That sounds like fun. I want to shoot fire at metal. Like,
I know. I am
this is
so.
my new life. I'm gonna dress better and like, you know, whatever, and wield power tools.
Oh man, you know what? Anytime you want, I can't teach you at school because of, well, now even more
Right.
restrictions
Right.
because of restrictions. But I'm gonna build a shed here pretty soon.
Ooh.
Actually, I'm going to pay somebody else to build a shed, even though I know how to build the shed. I feel like there are people who need work that I would like to give the money to instead.
Sure.
Um, and I couldn't do it by myself anyway, so I would have to get help anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I need a studio. I don't know where to find a studio in these times. It's very strange. I
Yeah.
can't afford, with everything being so strange, to commit to a studio. So I'm just going to
Yeah.
build a shed, and I'm pretty excited about it. But when I do that and I have my tools here and we don't have to social distance quite so much anymore, you can come
Yes.
over and I will teach you
I
how to
am
use
so
power
down.
tools.
I was pricing tools the other day, so I was just like, you know what? I think I need to have tools, like real tools. No
Yeah,
more butter knives screwing in
don't
things.
price tools. When things are open again, go to chart. Oh, I hope it's still there. This is the heartbreaking thing about this time, is like what
Yeah,
small
what's
businesses
gonna
will be
make it?
there and what won't. But Charlie's Used Tools on Larimer has
Oh,
been there. They're third generation of people that's been there, and I've been going there for years. I love the guy. I kind of have a little bit of a crush on the guy that owns it because he's so sweet and he's really cute and he's really nice. And but they're great and they're cheap and they'll help you, and they don't. The coolest
rad.
part is it's like they don't pull that shit like, oh, you're a girl, like that's
Oh
why I go
man.
back.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
have such a great
Yeah.
story about that. There used to be this place called Builders Square that was like a Home Depot. It closed, but it was open 24 hours. And I was at Pirate hanging a show, and it was like 3 a.m. and my drill crapped out. I needed a drill with a cord. I couldn't wait for it to charge. And so I went over there to buy a corded drill, and they had everything locked up. And I'm walking around, the place is empty. I finally find the guy that I need to get it from. And I'm like, oh, I need to grab a drill. And he's like, what color?
Okay.
Like, I was
Uh,
like, to match my eyes, dumb fuck. What do you think? And then he's like, oh, but I meant like, DeWalt's or yellow. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could say DeWalt. Like, like the assumption is always that you don't know. I had a guy in a hardware store tell me once that there was no such thing as a removable pin hinge, even though I was holding the one I was matching in my hand. Had it in my hand. I'm like, no, look, this is how it works. It's
this is
a thing. It's just so weird. It's like, I don't,
I guess
yeah.
this is imaginary.
And you just see it so much everywhere too. It's like, I love how, like on Facebook, which I'm more and more staying off of, I can't take it anymore.
It's
Um,
yeah.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert, but I don't go to the news for my information. I go to science journals. I'm
Good.
good at
Yeah.
reading that stuff. And it's like, that's my work is really, really informed
When
by that kind of
when
research.
did you start doing that? Because this is something other people need to hear. I'm just saying.
I think it mostly started in grad school because I had access to science journals, but I've always been the kind of nerd who like is going to have, when I'm interested in something, I'm going to open 20 tabs and I'm going to read everything there is to read about it.
Hmm.
And when it comes to politics, that includes like reading from the left to the right of the spectrum, which I realize nobody does. But I mean, I try to avoid opinion pieces. I mostly want like news. And so like, yeah, like I guess I've always been this way because I used to like go watch C-SPAN for real, for hours, watching C-SPAN for hours, as opposed to reading opinion pieces. Because that's the kind of nerd I am. But I do think people need to understand this. And I've been wanting to write, I'm going to pitch this to somebody. I've been wanting to write a piece about like, well, how do you vet information? How do you research? How do you know if something's fake news? You know, like, I think people just aren't taught that. And it's not hard. You
Right.
know, I mean, anybody who writes, anybody who's a researcher knows how to do that. But I think we
Right.
take it for granted that everybody knows that. And it's not hard at all. But like, yeah, I've always kind of been that person. And it's not because I'm like, oh, fake news, I need to go to the science journal. It's like, oh, here's a link. What does that go to? Oh, that goes to the study. Oh, I'm so interested. What else does that, what other studies have been done on that? You know, it's just like, that's
Yeah.
just how the brain works, you know?
And I wish more folks were like that. It's just and a lot of venues, even the, kind of clickbait site I used to work for, it depends on these these emotional knee-jerk responses,
Yeah.
and like all of the little click joys we get or whatever. It's just like, oh yeah, click, 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 click.
But I
Um,
mean, like, look at that pandemic video everybody was sharing this week. You
yeah,
know,
I didn't
that
watch that. I
you
don't,
don't. Yeah, I
yeah,
watched it so you don't have to because it's horrible.
I have a feeling
I
it
had five
was
different people send it to me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta watch this, and I
same.
watched it, and I'm like, it literally took me 5 minutes of googling to debunk the first half of it. Like, there's three lies in the first few minutes.
Yeah,
It's so simple, but people won't do it. You know, and you see this all the time. You see people like, an easily Googleable fact is just like, oh, let me ask somebody instead because it's easier.
right.
You
And I
know.
mean, anymore, we really got to look deeper than Google too, because of the way algorithm,
Mhm.
like it's like, I don't want to say it's rigged, but like, it's good to have good practices and research,
It's
obviously.
it's a bubble is what it is it's feeding you
Yeah,
what
it's a
you want.
bubble. Yeah.
And
And
and I just use Google as a verb. I actually like
gotcha.
don't exclusively use Google. I use DuckDuckGo a lot because it's not traceable. So
Oh,
if I'm doing something weird, DuckDuckGo.
oh, oh, that's good
They
to
don't,
know.
or they don't do cookies in it or something. They're not collecting data.
Okay.
But uh, I feel like, number one, there's tools in Google that there are good tools in
Oh,
Google.
yeah.
We know it's evil, but like
Reverse
Google
image
image
search,
search,
by the
oh
way.
God, yeah. Like,
Please
why do people
search
not
your
do that?
artists. Yeah, I teach all my students that. I'm like, you know what, these images are just as important to cite as the information. So you reverse image search because you might be putting food in someone's mouth. And
I
yeah,
do that with memes when I see people's artwork on it and try to go correct it. I've had that
yeah.
happen with my stuff lots of times. Pinterest is a nightmare that way for artists.
Pinterest messes up all of my Google searches.
Pinterest, I didn't even want to get on Pinterest. I had no interest in Pinterest. And then I got on there because my friend called me and she's like, dude, your work is like blowing up Pinterest right now and it's attributed to somebody else. And
Whoa.
so it's like trying to like get all the grains of sand out of a wave, it's just
Right.
like you just go in and you try to hunt down the source, the original source. And I don't know if I'm like tag stuff and put your name on it. But yeah, like if you upload something as just a normal person to Pinterest, the terms of use say that it's yours. So this person uploaded my work and said it was theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe by accident, even maybe they didn't even know they were doing that. It didn't necessarily seem like it was trying to be
Mm-hmm.
evil, but yeah, like all of those kinds of things. Another Google tool nobody ever uses, I don't think, is Google Scholar. Like, I use Google Scholar
Yeah.
more than I use regular Google. I think
Some of
it's
my
much
students did
better.
that this semester as Google Scholar. And I honestly didn't know about Google Scholar until this semester, oddly.
Really?
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
didn't know about it till grad school, though I don't know if it existed too much before I was in grad school, but I mean, that's the thing is like, it's really, we do not have, we think of the internet as the great democratizing of information, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I look at it like the fashion world. You know, you have couture fashion
Mm-hmm.
that's showing up in journals that are only accessible by academia, by somebody with a .edu account, you know,
Right.
that's behind a paywall. Even sometimes at your school, it might be behind a paywall to you.
Mm-hmm.
And our news is becoming that way. The New York Times, WAPO,
Mm-hmm.
behind a paywall. The free news, the trash news, the H&M news, H&M fashion is, you
The
know,
throwaway
that's
stuff.
free. That's free for a reason because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem is like information is not all created equal.
Mm-mm.
Um, and people have this idea in their head that it is. So like when the pandemic video was taken down, people like censorship. And I'm like, it's not remotely censorship. The owner of that account signed something saying that YouTube could take down anything.
Yeah.
And that's not censorship if you agree to it in advance. It's not. It's like we can't muddy the waters on what censorship is. It's too important. You know, but if you're agreeing to your work being removed, that's not censorship. You know, no one's owed a platform.
Yeah.
So if you signed it, it's on you. And yeah, they might, you know, the problem is people think the censorship or what they're reading as censorship alone is proof of a cover up, is proof of something. And it's like
Gotta
really bad cover up if that's what it takes.
right.
You don't leave the evidence on the table if you're covering something up. You know, you're not like telling everybody you're covering it up, right? Like one would think.
Yeah.
I feel
Um,
bad laughing because like people I like and respect and love fell for this thing, and
yeah.
I just like I'm
I
so
like
frustrated with the anti-science bent of everything, and I'm not even a scientist, you
did
know.
you see the latest one that came up? And if you I actually did click on it because a lot more people had shared that one, and it was intelligent folks, like people who like super,
Was it
research
the Rick rolling one?
the what?
The Rick rolling one
What
where
is
you get Rick rolled? Do you know what Rick rolling is?
maybe the one where it's Rick Astley.
Yes, that's Rick rolling. So Rick rolling is like kind of an obscure internet thing.
Okay.
God, you know, I love internet history a little bit too much sometimes, but like it came out of 4chan, like all bad things come out of 4chan, but basically like Rick rolling was you'd click a link supposedly to something, and
Uh,
then suddenly Rick Astley would take over your computer singing, you know, and
okay.
you had to restart your computer. You couldn't get out of
Oh
it,
my
you know.
gosh. So I didn't realize it was that kind of thing. I
That's
just
why I shared it. I
so
thought it was
I
so
thought it was
funny.
I thought it was funny because see, now it's even funnier. I didn't know that history, but I thought it was funny because every time I hear that damn song, I'm like, Rick, stop lying. Just
I
stop
know,
it.
right? Yeah.
Please. That kind of
That kind of
motherfucker.
adds an extra layer to it too. But that I can't hear that song without thinking about Rick rolling too. It's been totally ruined, you know.
I had no idea. That is hilarious.
I remember the first time that happened to me, I didn't know about it. I didn't know what it was, and I was like, "What? Why this song? What?" And
So,
then I'm trying to get out, and I'm like, "What the hell?
did you
Tip
ever
over."
watch Charlie the Unicorn?
No.
You'll have to watch it because there's a little Rick
All right, I'm
roll in
writing this
there.
down. Putting it in my pile of
and
stickies.
now and now that's even funnier too. I'm like, wow, you nerds, that's amazing.
Oh man, my favorite website is Know Your Meme. Like I'm just always all
Know
over
your
them.
meme? I'm gonna check that out. Know your meme.
Yeah, anytime you see some sort of internet in joke, that's where you go to find out about it. But also, I'm like fascinated by that history, like because I feel like being on the internet, it's like watching culture being produced before your eyes in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. Like
it's
cultural
wild.
touchstones happen overnight.
Like,
You know,
yeah, well, even like in 5 minutes or less now, because like, you can live tweet a news story more quickly than a news place can get to it. So,
I mean that's why Twitter is so useful. You
mm-hmm.
know, is like breaking news on Twitter is just like yeah, journalists are going to go there before they even go to
Yep.
their home source. And
And I've done some of that. I remember when I learned, I'm like, so Twitter can be news? Question mark. And they're like, yep,
yeah,
it's happening now.
but see, that's the other thing about the bubbles that we were talking about earlier about the algorithmic bubbles is like,
Yeah.
Twitter, you're actually creating the bubble for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little healthier. But Facebook is creating your algorithm constantly, recreating it, constantly changing it. Google's constantly creating it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like, I'll get people telling me like, oh, I love your posts on Facebook. Like I get all my news from you. And I'm like, please don't. That's not my job. I'm not a news source. I'm
Yeah.
sharing highly biased things that I'm interested in. I'm not acting as a journalist on Facebook at all. That's not my role, and I'm not
Yeah.
treating it as such. So like I'm so disturbed when people tell me that. And a lot of times I do think I share things that I think are really important for people to know.
Hmm.
But I'm trying more and more not like now how I interact with Facebook is so interesting. And it's funny because in this time when we're all so alone, I really kind of crave that interaction, but I don't get the buzz out of it that I used to because it's all so fear-based and negative and freaky and people fighting
Right.
and you know, it's just too stressful. Like I don't need it. I'm somebody who if I write a Facebook post, I'm going to fact check everything I'm typing.
Right.
Even if I know it in my head and I know it's true, I'm going to fact check myself.
And I need to fact check more. I have
I'm
messed up a
super
couple times.
conscious of it. I'm super
Um,
conscious of it. And and it's because I was on the debate team in high school. It's because like my whole ideas about research were formed in that environment. And so,
I'm
you
sorry,
know,
I'm laughing because every time I hear folks were in debate in high school, I think of that stupid joke, were you a master debater?
yeah. You know what I was? I didn't even, you know what's so sad? This is another sad girl thing where I shut myself down before I even tried is I wouldn't do debate itself in competition. Well,
Uh-huh.
number one, the boys were always chosen. Like that was kind of the thing. But
Right.
number
Yeah.
two, probably part of why is I was afraid to try because I was afraid that like there was one girl that did debate. She was in all the AP classes and I was like really, I was just really like I was really smart, but I was kind of more the stoner set. So I didn't really like, I didn't ever felt like I fit in. I always felt like a like weird outsider. So I did, you know, forensics. So I did like
Okay.
poetry and drama and
You
humor.
had forensics at your high school?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
heck?
No, not forensics like dead body forensics though.
No, I mean like that's cool. What?
Is it? I thought it was normal. I thought everybody like our forensics team and our
No.
debate team are the same. And then statewide in Colorado, all the other
Okay.
schools had that, but it wasn't like that at other high schools.
So wait, explain to me what forensics was for y'all?
So forensics was like this weird form of speech giving.
Uh-huh.
There was one category called extemporaneous speech, which I think I would have been very good at had I competed in it, but I didn't.
Uh-huh.
Again, fear, you know, mostly guys did it, kind of afraid of it. But humor and drama and poetry were all categories where, and then you could do a duet where you do it with somebody else, but usually it's just getting
Oh.
up and reading. It's like a dramatic reading. It's
Okay,
like
so it's
acting
like
without a stage or a set or props or anything.
interesting. So it's
Yeah,
like
interpretive
making
readings.
people feel experience the material essentially. Like I'm thinking about the poetry out loud competition that just happened, and
Yeah.
the students are there to read these poems and also lightly emote, not dramatically emote, and just like to you know beautifully read these poems and also still get the meaning and the feeling and stuff across without being like ah.
It's very much like that, but it's like that. I don't even know what it comes out of. It is the nerdiest of nerd activities. Like I think the only nerdier club is chess club. I don't know that you could get any nerdier than
I
that.
I really missed out. I was involved in a lot, but I didn't do debate. I didn't do business. I didn't do stuff like that. I was in Latin club.
I
That's
only did
fairly
things
nerdy.
after my sophomore year because I realized that I was like, number one, I'd been sort of a hiccup to that point, and I'd go to
Mhm.
school in my cowboy boots and get teased a lot, and you know, like was kind of like, you know, had a horse, spent a lot of time in Wyoming, you know.
Yeah.
And then over the summer between ninth and 10th grade, I discovered punk rock, and every like everything changed. My entire personality changed. Everything changed. And it was also like right around not long after my parents got divorced, a lot of big changes in life and stuff.
Yeah.
But I realized that, and I don't know how I realized this, but I had been painfully shy and I had been bullied all through school. And I
Oh.
realized at a certain point that it's like, I can't really succeed in the life I want if I'm going to be this shy. I have to
Mhm.
teach myself to be more extroverted. And so I very deliberatively joined choir and forensics, and then also tried out for plays. And so like I was always interested in those art forms anyway, but it was sort of a way to, I sort of reconstructed my personality in high school. It's like I feel like there's this sort of fake public self that I have that's not really fake. It's like who I am, but that I'm sort of extra in public as opposed to what I am in private.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels very different to me. I've had other people tell me they don't. I mean, people very close to me tell me they don't see the difference and they think it's in my mind, but it is in my mind because I was very consciously just super painfully shy and super afraid of people, you
And
know.
see, and I wouldn't have ever guessed that. I remember in my undergrad when one of my teachers said, it's all about who you know. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm fucked because I'm like social anxiety and
Oh
like
yeah. No, yeah, me
what do I
too. Yeah.
do? And so I would think about starting things and never did. And then I had this friend named Adam Spears who he's like, if you lead the thing, I'll help you with it or something like that. And so we started this club called Metro Poets, and it was big. It was actually really a big deal on campus, and it was really
At
cool
Metro State.
at Metro, yeah. And
Nice.
that
I
was
didn't know you went there. I went there too. Oh, I
yeah,
did know you went there because Sandra, because
yeah,
yeah,
Doe,
Dove.
Sandra Doe,
Yeah,
um, who's like an amazing person too.
she's
But like
incredible.
yeah, I mean, that's what happened. It's like I'm still pretty awkward and I guess I'm getting older, so it'll just turn into eccentricity. But like that's the thing is like just getting up and doing the thing, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Just I mean, for me, it literally was like, who do I need to know? And I went up to the English department and I would zoom past the English professors' offices. Hi, Dr. Doe. Hi, Dr. So. Like, like, and by the time they realized someone said hi to them, I was already gone. So that's
Yeah.
how that worked for a while.
I've never been really good at the who you need to know thing. Like I don't really
Yeah.
have a good filter and I'll just say what I think and I manage to piss people off sometimes. But also I'm very like I feel like, I talk about this with my students a lot about how there's this bitterness that comes from the idea of like, oh, it's all who you know. And I think
Yeah.
that part of that is human nature, right? Like you don't want to feel excluded, you don't want to feel outside. But the who you know is also human nature. It's the flip side of it, where it's like, well, how do you know about what you don't know about? Like, of course, you're gonna promote the people that you know about. That just makes
Right.
sense.
Well,
So the trick is to be known about, and
right. See,
you
this is
know,
something. Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish because I have some stuff to say about that.
well, I mean, I used to be kind of obnoxious about it, where it's like, okay, I have to know this person, I have to know that person, but I'm really bad at remembering names.
Same.
I do have that
Sorry, guys.
social awkward thing that hits sometimes and doesn't hit other times. It's like there's sometimes where it's like I just feel like I can't even go someplace, that it's like I just am feeling like I can't talk to people, I can't be around people, I can't do it. And then other times I'm like the life of the party and totally, you know, vivacious or whatever. And it used to always have to do with drinking. Sadly, it used to be
Sure.
like I would
Yeah.
have to drink to feel like I could be that person. And luckily I got out of that pretty young, but it still has some element of like, I need to psych myself up in multiple ways,
Sure.
to walk into an opening. And it was really interesting. Like when I did an artist talk last fall, uh, it was so cool because I was driving to the artist talk and I realized this absence of a feeling, which is not a thing you usually notice. But I
Mm.
noticed that it was the first time in my life where feel, I didn't feel like, uh, uh, what's that word? Where we
Anxious.
think,
Oh,
oh, imposter syndrome. I didn't feel imposter syndrome on the way to my own artist talk.
right.
That I'm like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. It's my work. I know what I'm saying. I know my material.
I want to get
But
them.
always before I was like, well, I'm really not that great. So why,
Yeah.
And it was so amazing to feel that and walk in feeling confident. Like that was a new thing.
That's cool.
It takes us
What's
so long.
funny? Thinking of Doe, like she's been such a big influence on my life actually. And I actually guest taught one of her classes. We were reading a
Cool.
Flannery O'Connor story, A Good Man is Hard to Find. And I was like, I love Flannery O'Connor. And I'm like, I know this story. I'm just gonna read it a couple more times and teach the story, right? And it was so cool. Like I was still feeling very nervous. And when students started walking in, like one person really detested the story and I was like, that's where we're going to start. that's exactly where we're gonna start, because I had no idea. And it was a really good discussion. I was like, I get it. You don't like Flannery O'Connor, and she's brutal, you know?
Yeah.
She's
And
not
what a
gonna.
smart instinct as a teacher. Like, if I can just compliment you on that, because I know that for myself, when I hate a piece of art, it's usually that I don't understand it. And if I spend more time with it, I often find that I really
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
And that what I'm not liking in it is not being able to identify what it's about or what I feel about it.
Why did it evoke?
But that's a really smart instinct as a
Well,
teacher to start there.
well,
You
that
know?
was the class that, like, I've been teaching like 3 semesters now. Well, it's, over a span of 2 years, but, like, that was the first time I felt like, "No, wait, I know what I'm doing. I earned this. I earned the
Yeah.
spot to be in front of the class, and, like, I can lead this class. I can guide these students."
It's actually kind of amazing you got there so fast because
Well,
I've
I
been
still
teaching
struggle. I'm
for quite a
still
while.
learning, but that was definitely a powerful moment. I was like, "No, I got this." Yeah.
I had, when I was teaching professional practice at first, which again, they came to find me to hire me to teach it because I was already teaching it in the community. It's not like I didn't know the content.
And that's a class at REMCAD?
Yeah, I'm not teaching it any longer because they made some curriculum changes that I
Mm,
very much disagree with and resent. But
yeah.
that's the life of the adjunct, right? Like you
We
spend
don't
6 months
know
developing
from
a
month
class
to,
and
yeah,
it's gone all of a sudden.
yeah.
I really felt that imposter syndrome so strongly in that class because I was teaching students at an art school and I had gone to a state school and I felt like
Mm.
somehow they were better than me. Now I don't think that, but like at the time,
Yeah.
I was very intimidated by the situation and feeling like, oh, and then the other part of it was, well, I'm the wrong person to teach this because I hate the motherfucking art world. And so at first I started trying to
No,
teach
that's why you're
them.
the right person to
That's why I'm the right
teach
person.
it.
At first, the first year, I was like trying to teach them like all the Go Network, yeah, 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 like
Yeah.
all the stuff I'd been taught and that were in other courses. And I was like,
Mm.
I gotta be true to myself. And we started talking about class. We started talking about racism and sexism. We
Oh,
started
nice.
talking about um like my last class that I had with them, I reified that whole thing to like, I'm tired of leading this conversation. You guys pick your controversial topic, write a paper and present it to the class. And all of
Yeah.
that came out of it.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really proud of what I developed that class into. I'm really proud that sort of as proof of concept, I have so many little working artists out there that stayed with it that were able to survive. And I started teaching them. I'm like, wait a minute. I had thought, I'm at an art school, I'm teaching rich kids. I need to teach them like about the blue chip art world. And I realized it's like maybe two of the artists I ever teach will be in that world. And actually,
Nice.
now that
And
I think
that's
back
real
on it, I
talk.
have two.
I mean, it's a pyramid scheme.
It's a
So,
pyramid
like,
scheme. So like, why not
yeah.
instead teach them how to be an artist in their community, how to thrive, how to
Mhm.
survive, how to make a living at this shit, how
Mhm.
to like diversify, how to apply for a job. What kind of jobs are there in the art world?
Right.
What could you do that gets you close to what you love? And starting from that point, like I was so proud of what I built the class into because it was so useful to them. And the best thing of all is like on their evaluation forms, every term there'd be two or three people who'd be like, this is the most important class I took here. This
Nice.
changed my life. And still, I'm still in touch with most of those students. I mean,
That's really
I
cool.
always touch with them, so
Yeah,
it's like,
I think this is the very first semester I've been open to keeping in touch with students after class. I think, like I said before, my boundaries were very thick before, like very strong. But after everything that's happened this semester with COVID and all of that, I'm like, no, I really do care about these students, and I want to know if they're okay.
I care a
And
lot.
like,
I
I
care
can't.
probably too much.
Yeah, and I can't carry them, but I know about resources, and I do, I'm not where I want to be in my careers or whatever, but my view is a little different than where they are right now, and I can help.
Yeah, I think you have to identify what it is you have to teach too, because it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I could have gone on teaching that class as the blue chip art class that it had been, and the sort of, here's the guide to the art world you'll never be a part of.
Mhm.
That was totally an option for me, but that isn't who I am. And I realized that like the whole entire key to my success at all, whatever success I have, is that I haven't waited for permission to do what I wanted to do. I've just done it. If I want to open
That's
a gallery, I open a gallery. If I want to curate a show, I curate a show. If I want to have a
yes.
show, I
Yes.
get a space. And it's like, that comes out of, I think, times like we're going to be facing again. I mean, when I was growing up in Denver and it was this weird little empty boom and bust cow town, and there was all kinds of empty space and not very much money
Hmm.
and very low stakes. It's like all of us were like the little rascals. It's like, let's put on a show. Let's do what we want. Let's use what we have.
See, that's why I loved Metro, because I feel like Metro was like that. It was,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of non-traditional students, most of us, or a good deal of us, and it's
Yeah.
like it just felt like it was so ripe for like you could create whatever you wanted, and
I
that
mean,
was fun.
what proves your idea about that is almost every co-op gallery in this town came out of Metro.
Seriously.
Literally almost all of them. Pirate,
Wow.
Edge, My Gallery Ilk, which isn't around anymore, but it did.
Yeah.
Um, Core. Yeah, almost all of them came out of Metro in some form or another. And so that spirit of like making do with what you have, we didn't have an
Mhm.
art world that cared. We were like really geographically isolated.
Mhm.
Some of us traveled and went to see things and tried to be involved in things and showed outside of here. But it's really interesting looking at the opportunities that young artists have now that were just nowhere, nothing like that existed for me. Nothing.
Right.
And now I'm considered too old for a lot of these opportunities, which sucks because it's like, well, that wasn't even there for me.
Yeah.
But whatever, I'm happy there's something there for somebody. Like, that's good. That's progress.
Mhm.
But because we were so isolated, I think a very unique art world developed here, and musically, writing wise, everything, like, the music from here is very unique in
Mhm.
many ways. Like, it's like this, it's not as much now because the internet has joined us, but back then it's like there was this thing called the Denver sound for a while that was like bands like 16 horsepower,
Yeah.
where it's, or Devotchka comes out of that,
Right.
where it's
Right.
a very unique kind of folky gypsy cowpunk sound, that wasn't coming out of other cities. It wasn't the Seattle sound. It wasn't the New York or LA sound.
Right.
And the reason I say we're heading into those times again, possibly, is like, well, what do we lack in this town? Cheap space.
Cheap
That's
space.
changed what we're able to do in so many ways. And yet, do we want cheap space now? What does that look like in the age of COVID? What does having a space look like? What is
Yeah.
sharing space or being in performance? And I feel like the silver lining of this time is just the amazing renaissance of creativity we're about to see. Like, that has just been
Right.
true throughout history. The Renaissance happened because of the Black Plague, not despite it. You
Right.
know, and I think that is like something we're already starting to see. Like, We Are Denver was the most beautiful community response. Have you seen that?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
I
definitely.
want to submit something, but I have no videos. I never get around to it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I know so many people who are in it, it's like,
I have weird art videos that nobody wants to sit through 20 minutes of, basically.
right? Oh,
You know?
really?
Well, maybe I should submit them anyway. I don't know. They're like background.
I
They're meant
think,
to be seen in a gallery, not sat and seen. So it's like they're not.
but you
They're more
don't
like
know that,
moving wallpaper.
like,
Huh?
yeah, you don't know that. Like, I mean, people are into ASMR and like all kinds of other kinds of strange things. So,
True. Yeah, maybe I'll
um,
just submit what I have. Maybe I should. I mean, I have one video I really, really love that I should submit. That's it's just a piece of honeycomb, like a
mhm.
full piece of
Oh
honeycomb.
yeah, no, you got to send it in. That's gonna be great. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, you don't even. You don't even know what I did. I just said it. I just said a full piece of honeycomb, and you're like,
yeah,
yeah.
honeycomb is beautiful. I'll stare at
No, the
honeycomb all
amazing thing is
day.
I melted it. The whole video is just me
Yes,
melting it, and then this
yes,
storm getting louder and louder.
yeah. This is like some ASMR kind of shit. You gotta, yeah, share
Okay,
that.
maybe I should. I just always feel like, yeah, I'm too weird for that. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it when we get off here. I'm going to do it. I should.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
I've been thinking
Well,
about it. I haven't made any video in a long time just because upgraded the computer, then didn't have the software that worked anymore. So I want to get back into that.
that
You
sounds
know?
fun.
I know I
Yeah,
found out
I'm
in the
just
meeting earlier that my department might actually buy us some tools, might actually get us some stuff to use because I'm supposed to do demos for my students. And I'm like, where, how?
right,
Like, other people can use Camtasia and draw on it, or they can hold up a drawing. And I'm like, here's my drill and hammer and sculpture tools that I'm holding up here in front of my computer
right.
for you. It's just,
And like, do you have tools at home? That's the other question. Do you
I have
have
the
that?
tools at home that they'll be using. Like, I've had to
No,
modify
I mean, do
everything.
they have tools at home? Like you were
That was the challenge last term because we went on terms of online so quickly. This term I was able to get like materials packages sent to them,
nice.
which was nice. Like I had a small budget to be able to like design some of the assignments like that. But last term, my first assignment was, okay, we're making stuff out of trash. And it was amazing. Like my students were so creative. And this is where I'm learning so much. They're teaching me so much. Like I learned maybe be looser with the parameters in these times and see
Yeah.
what's available and see
You
what
have
they have. And so last term I had a subtractive carving assignment and I was
mhm.
like, here's some ideas. You could use soap, you could use cheese, you could use a block of wood if you have one, but you probably don't,
Yeah.
and there were no places to get supplies. And one guy made the most incredible, oh my God, he made this huge block of ice and then he carved it and it was so beautiful. It was almost like a abstract Barbara Hepworth sculpture. It was a really big block of
Huh.
ice. Then he put it, at night in the dark, he put it on a wet table and
Uh-huh.
lit it from above with a single flashlight and took a picture. And it was gorgeous. It was like,
That's cool.
I was like, dude, this could be hanging in a gallery right now,
That's
right
awesome.
now. Like it just, it's so good. And then seeing their creativity, one student carved a roll of duct tape, like just amazing. It looked like a topographical map. It was so cool.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, like I'm learning so much from them. And so this term I'm doing some things like teaching them how to do mold making the old DIY punk rock way with silicone and dish soap, just like silicone in the tube silicone, not the
Yeah.
expensive silicone from the art supply store. And I'm teaching them how to take recycled plastics and recycle them at home.
Right.
There's just so many things that I know from being poor myself
Right.
that are perfect for this time. And then these students are going to be like depression era thinkers where everything has a use,
I
everything
mean,
has possibility.
something I didn't realize like until last week was wait, I can reuse the tortilla bag though. It has the little zip thing and everything. It's great.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
how
no, I've
did
done
I
this
never
person
think
forever.
about that before?
When we cleaned out my grandmother's apartment, she had every bread bag she'd ever bought stuffed inside every other
Holy.
bread bag she'd ever bought. And I thought it was crazy pants at the time, but
Mhm.
now it's like, I mean, you saw what I had to throw out in
Plastic.
my studio. You like videotaped me throwing out trash in my
There
studio
was
and almost
it
crying about
wasn't
it.
trash though. That's what's so weird. It's like so like I want to explain that a little bit. I want to talk about that a little bit. Like it was amazing for me because being able to see any part of anybody's process is a huge privilege. And so I felt like I saw a lot of that. And then just like being able to see like these collections of beautiful things.
You documented them so beautifully too, all those
I
pictures.
need to send you those
I'm
pictures.
so thankful that you took those pictures.
I will figure that out. Please bug
Like
me.
I just feel like, well, I mean, I've seen the ones on Facebook, but send any of them to me that you have because I feel
Yeah,
like that was such a special place and special moment in time. And yet I was so depressed I wasn't able to appreciate it at that time.
yeah. Well,
And
and
it's
you
really
were
sad.
in stasis for a really long time in that space, not sure what was gonna happen, so that
Yeah.
definitely puts a damper on, you
I
know.
so regret some of the things I didn't do. And then I so regret some of the
Mhm,
things I got rid of and
mhm,
things got lost that I still need and want and can't,
mhm.
are gone. But the thing that's hardest now is like, I've been collecting all this HDPE plastic, which is the one with the number 2,
Mhm.
because that you can pretty safely melt down and reuse at home. And you can even carve it on like you put it on like a sander and it will sand and you can put it
See,
on
Laura,
you
you
know,
could have a whole ASMR channel and be viral on YouTube, just like, you're melting the plastic and maybe
I
putting
watch these
water a
woodworking
little.
videos like that it's just like
It would
silence and somebody working with wood and I'm like kind of turned on by it.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, it's a big
yeah.
deal.
But I mean, I threw out all that HDPE plastic and I'm like, oh man, now
Oh,
I need more. And it's not really safe to go dig through trash cans. And
right.
how am I going to get all this and I need it like in a 2-week span. I need to get I need to get enough that I can make something to show them.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, luckily being poor has given me these skills that I'm able to now pass on to students. And we were just talking about this in our faculty meeting this morning that it's like, so many people today just think, oh, I go to the store and I buy that.
And
And
that's so crazy. Like, you know what I've been doing? I bought a few kitchen scraps just so I could grow them. Or
Yeah.
I bought a few, like I bought lettuce and some other stuff because I knew I could grow them, is what I mean. Like an
Yeah.
onion, and like right away before I even used it, I like chopped off that part, some celery, lettuce,
I
and
used to do that so much too. I should start a celery.
it's
That's a good
so
idea.
great. It's so exciting and fun.
I'm so behind. I got to get my garden going. I have tomato plants in the kitchen, but I haven't done anything yet.
I
I've just
have a
been so
windowsill
busy.
garden. I
Huh?
I got a bunch of starts from Rose House in Denver, and I have a windowsill garden.
Nice.
And it's lovely. I
I
might have
kill everything inside. I don't know what it is. I've never been able to keep things alive inside. I'm like killing a basil plant on the windowsill. How is that possible? Like it's
no.
right there and I'm cooking from it and I should be able to keep it alive. But like outside I do really well. But
Yeah.
you know, so I'll give you like vegetables this summer because I hopefully
Okay.
I'll get it together. I'll have some. And then my friend Ricardo said he was starting some plants for me in a greenhouse. So hopefully I'll get those from him. And then
Well,
honey, you know.
yeah.
This is a thing, you
So
know what I've been thinking about lately is like we need to put together a community network of who has what, like who's growing
yes.
what, who has chickens, who has
Um, I would love to do that because I was just thinking of like how like I always have pounds of coffee because I had to
yeah,
go back to Starbucks, you know, and that was one of my 5 jobs, and that's the job that's keeping me going right now.
I
I'm
know,
very
and it
thankful
sucks because
for
I
it.
know you're having a lot of anxiety about it.
I Yeah, I have a bit of anxiety about it, and I'm also very very thankful. But one of my perks is I get a whole pound of coffee every single week, you
That's
know.
cool. And
So
you can't drink a pound of coffee a week, no matter
no,
how much coffee you drink.
I cannot.
No, I love that. I mean, I'm like, I just broke into the your coffee the other day because I've been spoiled by the availability of cold brew stores. I mostly drink cold brew, and it's like I always made my own cold brew for years, like 20 years. I made cold brew. Nobody you could buy couldn't buy cold brew anywhere. This is what cracks me up about things.
It's like it's
I'm
something
enough
you
of a
do when you
sucker to go
grow.
buy the cold brew. I'm like lazy, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, lots of people, I mean, it's also comfort, right? We want those comforts still. Like I've noticed, I mean, we've been busy. We're not as busy as we were pre-quarantine, but we've been
Yeah.
busy.
No, we're all a little too busy here. It scares me, and I don't like it.
Mhm.
Like it's very worrying.
I'm
You
trying not to
know,
worry about it.
bone
But
broth
I
is
can't
another one. When I
control
was
it.
a kid, you know, my mom would make. You know, we didn't have a lot of money. My mom would make like dog bone soup. She called it
Yeah,
because King Supers gave away free dog bones, so she would like make
get
dog
the
bone soup.
bones.
Now it's like, oh, go pay $6 for your freaking little thing of bone broth.
Oh, it's like $9, $12 depending on what brand.
Do
And
people
yeah,
not know they just have to boil bones? How do they not know
I
this?
don't think people, I didn't know until maybe a month ago, and I'm like, I want to do this all the time now.
I mean,
Um,
in my mind, any chicken carcass thrown in the trash is a travesty. I
yeah.
buy chicken so that I can make stock, not so that I can eat the chicken.
Yeah, I just realized like, all the boneless chickens I've bought in my life, uh, and how, that's the thing about this time. It's making me slow down enough to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could grow garlic, or I didn't know you can use the chives for pesto, like the garlic chives for pesto, or
This is
uh,
what's so sad, though, about this sort of what would be the word for it? It's like the loss of knowledge, of
yeah.
just life knowledge.
It's
Like,
because we're moving so quickly that there is no way to sit still long enough to realize.
well, we're so driven by Maslow's hierarchy all the time. But the thing is, it's like all
Yeah.
those hours we're working used to be hours people would put into the farm and live.
Mhm.
And
Or play
I
games with your family, or
yeah, play
so
music with them or
mhm.
I for years my dream has been I want to buy some land and I'm getting closer to it actually. Like I want to
Nice.
buy some land. I want to build an earthship someday, but start out probably with just like a cabin or a FEMA trailer or whatever I can get up there.
Yeah.
And I want to grow my own food and I want to make my own clothes and I want to make my own shit and I want to just not
I'm
I want
feeling
to get
that
off grid
too.
from all of it. I mean, I want to be on grid online. I'm not going to give up, I'm not like going to be a hermit any more than I am. I kind of am. But I mean, I'm not gonna be like a hermit that like eschews society so much as like it feels better to me to spend my time working on growing my food than it
Yeah.
does to spend time working on earning money, which I've never been terribly
Well,
motivated by to begin with.
how excited, I mean, that's the thing, is like the reward is like money in your bank, but you end up spending it anyway and just going, it's like this constant thing. But like, what happens when you grow something? Like, I sprouted my beans just because I didn't have anything to plant the other day, and I was like, I just sprouted all my beans, and they're so cute, and I'm really excited about them. Now what am I going to make with them?
See,
And
I gotta go weed now. You're
well,
motivating me. I'm gonna weed this evening. That was my plan. Is I'm gonna just. I have so many weeds. I'm so late getting started because of all this. I've just been. I
I
feel
love,
like teaching online is so much more work, and I'm so much busier. And
yeah.
yet, I'm really not. If I think about it, it's just that my ADHD is more triggered, and I'm having trouble staying on track.
Have you ever
But
done Pomodoro technique?
I've tried. I forget I'm
Yeah.
doing it. I'm gonna try again. I always try again, but
I found that
my
very
brain.
helpful the other day because I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I've never gotten a diagnosis or anything, but I do have a hard time focusing. I'm like, right now I'm cleaning the kitchen, 25 Pomodoros, and then, oh shoot, I get a 5-minute break. Okay, I guess I'll do those squats that I said I was gonna do. you know?
See, like this is my day. It's like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make some coffee, and then I'm gonna forget to put water in and turn it on. I'm
Mm,
gonna heat up some oatmeal, but I'm gonna forget it's in there and find it 4 hours later.
shoot.
I'm gonna because I'm just like I'll see something and be like, oh, I got to do that. I'm gonna do that,
Mhm.
and I'll go from thing to thing, start projects, don't finish them. Eventually, things always get done. I mean, I'm
Yeah, you get
pretty
back around to
productive.
it.
I'm pretty prolific for somebody
Yeah.
who approaches life this way. It's not good, but I'm frustrated with myself because
Mhm.
if I don't have the emergency siren in my head for a deadline, it's not urgent, and I
I get
cannot
that.
prioritize.
I
And it's
started
like I have
fasting
something
overnight.
important I'm doing, but like instead of doing the important thing, it's like that needs to be dusted right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
See, luckily for me with housework, I can put it out of sight, out of mind. So that's what makes me really hard to live with, is because like when I do sit down to work, I can super focus on it. It's just like the getting there and being distracted by all the other things getting there. But so like my MFA, literally my office was an anti-room full of boxes and books, and there was
yeah.
a path leading through all of that to the desk.
Literally, that's my studio still. Like I've never really finished unpacking my house. It's just there's just stuff everywhere. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's not so much the house cleaning as the not wanting to do the task. Like I don't want to do the house cleaning either. The only time house cleaning is appealing is when there's a worse task like grading.
Sure. Yeah,
Then I want to do the
that's
house
not a
cleaning,
lie.
you
That
know.
isn't a lie. It's like,
Or like I'll get an idea like it's always about like arrangements of things on a shelf. I'll get it like I have this I wish I could show it to you, but like I have this shelf over here where everything's arranged perfectly on it and I'm really happy about it. But I'll obsess over like that one thing has to
Mhm.
change and that'll be the important thing to do.
I get that.
So not important, but like
Like,
it's
I get
so
that.
I do not understand my brain sometimes. Or like there was one 3-month period where all I was going to do was whittle sticks every day, all
Mhm.
days. I was going to whittle sticks and I'd be like, well, I'm not getting anything done. I got to get things done. But now I'm making art out of the sticks. So I
Nice.
was getting something done. I just didn't
Right.
know what I was whittling the sticks for yet. Like I didn't know what they were for yet.
So that's something to take note of too, is just like, in this world where the showing of productivity is like supposed to be a constant thing, especially for us who are, I mean, for everybody. So like if you're a creative person, you're supposed to turn it into a product and you need to show us right
And
now.
if you don't do it right away, it's going to disappear.
It's going to
But the problem with
disappear.
that is how much unfinished work have you seen that you've never seen finished?
I mean,
I mean, I see it all the time on Instagram, and I do it
oh,
some.
really? Like
Yeah, like, oh, I
oh,
gotta
like the whips.
or I'll share something. Sometimes I'll share something like late at night that I'm working on, and the next morning I'll realize it's not finished or I'm not satisfied with
Oh,
it.
I like sharing
You
stuff
need
that's in the
time.
middle. I like sharing stuff that's in the middle of a process. I don't know. I've always been that way. I think it makes some people uncomfortable. I remember asking this artist, Pete Romberg from way, way back in Boise, if he would just let me watch him paint. I just really wanted to watch him paint. And he was like, no.
No, it's very intimate, right? It's a very intimate thing. I mean, I remember I had a boyfriend who wanted to like have sex with me while I was painting, and I was like,
That's
absolutely not.
what?
It's too intimate. Like it's weird to say that with sex, right? But
Yeah.
it's so inside of you, like
Yeah.
that feels so disruptive
And
and
I don't
wrong and
I don't
weird.
think I got that then, but like
That's
it's
like
the
having
same
sex in
with
church.
writing. I don't know about that, but I know like with writing, if someone's standing over my shoulder, it's really difficult to do that. You
Yeah.
know,
I
it's
can do demos. I can do fake art while people are watching. Never
yeah.
understood the people who want to do live painting. I've done it a couple times and I've been profoundly uncomfortable. But to me, it isn't about the privacy, it's about the focus. It's about the
Mhm.
ability to just get lost in it. And if I'm conscious somebody else is there,
It weirds you out.
I'm just not able to get into that flow state. I'm just not able to get lost in it in the same way, unless it's somebody working on their own thing, right? Like, but I
Right.
used to have a studio mate that I would be working for the longest time, and I'd look up and I'd see her there. She was so creepy. She would just sort of silently come up and watch me. And I'd
Mm-mm.
look up and be like, "What?" She's like, "Oh, just watching." And
Yeah,
I'm
I would
like, "Don't."
I would yeah, I get real
Creepy. It's like
weird with
watching
stuff
somebody
like that.
pee.
Yeah, I get weird
Weird.
with stuff like that. I'm like, "What do you want? What are you
I
doing?"
really don't mind though people seeing it in process. I mean, I had a very public studio for a long time that people could walk
Yeah,
in and out of. It isn't so much that, it's that I want to spend time with it to know that it's done. I don't want to make that snap decision. Like I
sure.
want it to have a moment to breathe with me away from it so
Right.
that it can speak to me in a different way when I come back to it. You know?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, for me, a lot of social media has been a way to document myself a lot, because I've lost so much, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it in a sense, it wasn't about anyone else. And then, of course, it has a little bit become that because, like, that's also how I'm leery of using the word connect so much, but it is how I've
No.
shared and connected and also
It
learned.
is, but it's so unsatisfying right now that it's so
I think there
I
are
feel
ways
like all
to
I
use
do
it
is
where it
fact check it.
is. Yeah, I feel like I guess I mean, I'm not doing so much the news stuff, but I feel like there is a way to do it, where it still feels like some of the things you would receive in a 3D interaction. And I think it's just I don't know what the answer is, but I
I mean, I don't
know
know. That's
that's
how I felt
why.
about it for 25 years, though. Like, that's how I felt about it when I was staring at just words on a screen without even any content, any image content, any
What
visual
do you
content.
mean? Like, you felt it was
I felt that connection and community and all of that before
well, and that's
that I
because
don't
of the
feel
kind of
now.
person you are. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, I feel like right now, there's so much fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
And because of the way I've curated my Facebook feed, I guess I see most of it because I'm very political. And there's also like a lot of non-factual information,
Mhm.
and it is like torture to me not to respond to it. So what I've started to
Um,
do, since I don't want to get in a big back for, I mean, one thing is I've stopped checking notifications. My stress level went way down. I
yeah.
don't know if somebody responds to me. I said what I said. I'm done. I'm walking away. Like, so much healthier for me because I used to get these days long arguments with people that were so stupid. And I love arguing. I was on the debate team. I love it. But if other people are using the same rules of arguing, if they're making it into a personal, angry argument as
But
opposed
they're
to
like,
I
I
am
have a book
arguing
for
my
them
point
to
in an
read.
academic way.
I'm like,
Huh?
"Where's that book?" I have a book for them to read. It's called How to Think About Weird Things. And, I've also been thinking
Like
a
a break.
lot about the what is it, like, when you're even more convinced of your broken arguments, like, the confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias is a huge problem for
Yeah.
all of us. We all have it.
Mhm.
Um, you have to be flexible in an argument to be proven to show that you're proven wrong. But
Mhm.
that's why I fact check myself so much. That's why before I go fact check somebody else, I'm going to make sure I'm coming correct to it. You know, that I'm not coming up to somebody and like saying you're wrong and then they aren't. But at the same time, people will not believe you. And
Right.
so, like, the biggest one getting to me is herd immunity. You know, everybody wants to talk about herd immunity. And I'm like,
Oh, I'm
you know,
freaking out about that a little bit. I
I
mean
mean, like this, everybody's like, oh, let's use the Swedish model. It's like, number one,
mhm.
you're not paying attention. You're paying attention to clickbait. You're not paying attention to what the Swedes are saying, which they're having a big argument in their government right now about whether it was the right choice.
Right.
And their death toll is huge. And there's a lot of other countries to look to that were successful.
Mhm.
So why is that the example? Um,
Because people just feel, like, inconvenienced and
well, but they bought a fiction. Like, they're not even using the term herd immunity correctly. I had one guy argue with me like, oh, my parents are both doctors, so I know what it means. And it's like, oh, so like Donald Trump, their knowledge was just magically conferred to your brain? What? Because you're not using the term right. Like, herd immunity is not possible until you know the virus confers immunity. If you don't know if you're going to build up antibodies, which there's starting to be evidence that you will,
Mm-hmm.
but if you don't know that, where does this herd immunity come from?
Yeah.
70% of your people doesn't give you herd immunity. It gives you 70% of a sick population,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll get immunity or not. And we don't know yet. So like,
Well,
why
then on the
everybody's so used
way
to
to that,
instant answers, huh?
then, assuming there's immunity, like on your way to that, what's gonna happen? And people are willing to take that risk.
Right. Or
Risk.
the argument, well, this many people survive, so the death rate isn't that bad. It's like, you're not talking about what survival means.
Mm-hmm.
Because survival means permanent damage for many people. Kidney damage, lung damage, neurological damage. Like, I don't understand why everybody wants an instant answer from science, because that's not how it works. So something like pandemic comes out and they're like, no, this is the truth. It's a hoax. Look how the story's been changing. That's what I keep hearing from people. And I'm like, yeah, that's how knowledge is accumulated. That's how peer review works. That's why a scientist who rejects peer review can't be trusted, because you want to be proven wrong if you're wrong as a scientist. That's your goal. That's how it works.
Right.
And it's so frustrating to me, just the anti-intellectual stance we're taking now, and seeing, it's painful to see people take it that you know and respect and like and think better of, and you're like,
Yeah.
why do you believe
Well,
it?
and I try not to look at those things. And I also try to be understanding, and I also try to, I mean, like, where can I help? Like I can help my students learn about research. And it's just like, yeah, it is really painful and really confusing. I'm like, what? Like,
I
this
mean,
is,
I just feel like a skill I have that maybe has gone underutilized, that should be more utilized, is explaining science to people. And that's why I want to do the Mayday experiment when I was building the tiny house, is that the
Mhm.
goal of it was to go out and try to talk about these concepts, not as climate change or buzzwords that they've heard, but as simple observable facts of science. Like, I
Right.
convinced a Lyft driver one time, from like the edge of downtown across downtown, like in that span of ride, I convinced him climate change was real. And it was super easy.
Wow.
It's so easy. Like, this is
Wow.
the thing. We have to get away from buzzwords because people don't understand. So they'll use the word herd immunity because they've read 3 opinion pieces about it. And
Right.
part of the problem is our news has all taken the Fox News model of like, let's have pundits telling you opinions as opposed to
Mm.
news anchors giving you facts, right? So
Mhm.
that's the model. It's not necessarily that it's all as bad as Fox News, but it's all in that
I don't
that
even understand
shape,
why that
you
station
know?
exists.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So like, the way I convinced him is like, there had been snow and a few days earlier, and there was black soot on the snow.
mm,
And we started talking, he's like, climate change isn't real. And I was like, I'll bet you I can prove it to you in 5 minutes that it is. And he's like, all right, and he's like telling me, scientists making all this money. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know any rich scientists. I know a lot of scientists.
right.
None of them are rich.
Right.
But
Those
money's
ethics will
being
make you
made certainly by some people, but
right.
not the academics.
Right.
Um,
They're
but
make
here's how I convinced him: is I was like, do you see that snowdrift? And do you see how the sooty parts are deeper than the white parts? And he's like, yeah, I mean, that's observable, right? You can't say no to that. You can't, like, you have to take people on a path that they can't say no to what you're proposing. And that you have to, number one, I think listening is important. And you have to find points of agreement. So like, my brother doesn't believe in climate change,
Mhm.
but we can agree that solar's a good thing, that dirty rivers are not ideal,
Mhm.
that why would you grow your fruit with pesticides if you don't have to? We
Mhm.
can agree on those things. So this guy, I showed him an observable fact in nature, visible to him right there with his bare eyes. Do you see that the black parts of the snow are deeper than the white parts of the snow? And the only answer to that is yes, because it's an observable fact that we're both looking at.
Mhm.
And then I said, so the reason for that is that black absorbs heat and white reflects heat. Have you seen that on roofs? Have you seen people paint their roofs white to keep their place cool? He's like, yes. Okay, so we have 2 points of agreement. Okay, so think about this in terms of the planet. The planet is a giant heat sink, and when soot is covering all of the ice and it's black, it absorbs heat faster. And then that ice melts faster and makes those pits. And then the oceans rise because the ice is melting faster.
Mhm.
Can we agree on all of that? And he was like, yeah, that makes sense. And so in a span of 5 minutes,
It's like, why hasn't
I got
anyone
him from
else done
climate denial to understanding why the planet is warming.
right?
Like, it's basic. And the same is true of the coronavirus. And this is what's making me crazy is, the messaging. It's all about the messaging. So the messaging was gotta flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. Well, that's about our broken hospital system. That's about healthcare. That's not
Mhm.
about viruses.
Mhm.
Viruses want to survive. Like
Right.
everything on this planet has an
Yep.
imperative to survive.
Yep.
And what a virus needs to reproduce and survive is a host.
Mhm.
And so if you simply starve the virus of hosts, the virus dies off faster. So going and staying home for a month and then suddenly flooding into the world, that month is wasted. We did nothing. We did nothing in that month. That was
Well, not to mention that the virus is changing because it's,
because viruses mutate.
yeah,
And viruses mutate differently in different parts of the world because it's different.
mhm.
Once one is mutated over here and one's mutated over here, you have essentially different viruses that are related.
Yeah, and it's
So
because they're
to me, this is such basic math and basic science. And I am amazed at how many smart people aren't getting this just because it hasn't been the messaging in the news. You know,
that's
it's not
frustrating.
that they can't or won't. But I mean, when have you turned on a news show or read an article and read
Like,
about the reproductive rate in the US?
yeah. No, none of them say that. It's all
Grown up
word
countries
to
talk
word
about
to
that.
yeah.
You know,
I wish we were a grown-up country, I really do.
this is
Uh,
why I get a lot of foreign news sources and I look to a lot of foreign news. And I really feel like Chuck and Amy, man, following Chuck and Amy's story in Italy
mhm.
really made me so much more informed about what we were facing. And so the week before we all went home, I was watching their post and I was in a freaking panic at
Right.
school because I was writing emails and going, can we just relax our attendance policy? Because it's pretty draconian. Because, like,
Mhm.
after 2 absences, advising will, in the first part of the term, will just remove a student from your class.
Damn.
It's pretty
That's
bad. It's a new thing, and I hope it stops. I think it's going to stop now, but
that's
so
really harsh.
yeah. So I was walking around campus surrounded by sick kids who were coughing, and I'm immune compromised. And then I was really thinking a lot about a student I really love there who has had cystic fibrosis since she was a kid and did not expect to be alive at this age. Like, she's
Mhm.
alive because of a miracle drug.
Mhm.
And she's amazed that she's alive and kind of not prepared for it, kind of not prepared to be an adult.
Mhm.
And she's very talented, very dear to me. And I was thinking about her all week, like, oh my God, she's got to, like, I hope she's not on campus. I was looking for her. She was in the hospital. She was the first person I knew of in the hospital. She was in the hospital for a month
Mhm.
thinking she had the flu because they didn't have any tests.
Mm.
And after a month, she found out that she did have COVID. And she survived it because of this miracle drug, which is amazing. Like, her lungs are nothing but scar tissue already, and she survived it.
Dang.
But I haven't really heard much from her since. Heard from her mother. I kind of love it when my students' mothers reach out to me and become my friend, like, because they know I care. Like, it's so
Mhm.
they give me updates, you know.
Yeah.
Although I have one
That is a good
student that will
feeling.
never talk to me again because of that. So
Ah.
I mean, I had to do it though. Like, she reached out late at night and was suicidal, and I did tell. I don't have any shame about that. That was the right thing to do,
God.
But she unfriended me and is never going to talk to me again. But she's here. She's alive.
Good. And
Yeah,
probably creating beautiful art too. That
I hope so. I hope so. She was very lost at the time, and really struggling with a lot of things. And I felt really bad for her. And she was overseas when she was writing me this suicidal stuff, and I was just like, oh my God, she's got nobody there. So
mm,
I stayed up with her until about 3 a.m. and then she fell asleep, and then I wrote to her mom, and then I got this very angry unfriending message and blocking.
dang. I'm sorry about that.
It was the right thing to do. She'll see it someday. She'll be happy for her life someday. I mean, it's just, she was just struggling. Nobody wants to lose somebody in that moment. Like,
Right.
that's still the right thing to do, you know.
Well, uh, Lori, I want to close this up pretty soon.
I know. How long have we been talking? We've been
A
talking.
while. um, and I want to make sure you let folks know, like how to contact you and support you and support your art.
Oh, well, I can send you links to put under the video.
Absolutely.
I have a website. I have a Patreon. My gallery sadly just closed. I'm a little heartbroken about that.
Yeah, that's
I
may
have
win.
Twitter and Facebook and all of that. I also have a Medium page that I'm trying. So, twice I tried to tell you what I've been doing. So now when I get frustrated and I want to write a response, I type it out and then I just cut and paste it into a Google Doc. Done.
I've been doing a lot of that with certain conversations. I'm like, then I'm like, okay.
No, the thing is, I need a writing prompt. It really helps me to have a writing prompt. And so, like, I'm actually using that to sort of develop. I would like to put my political opinions on my Medium blog so that I don't have to argue with so many people,
Yeah.
that I can preserve some friendships because I lost a lot of friends in the 2016 election. I have pretty esoteric political views that don't line up with other people's, and everybody thinks you're supposed to think like them. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that it didn't quite used to be that way. It used to be like, I think the dialogue there was different. We weren't so cutthroat about trying to convince each other that we all needed to vote the same.
I mean, part of it is, if we have time for this, part of it's just a natural function of what's going on is that there, do you know about the Overton window? Do you know what the Overton window is? I'm
Mm-mm.
totally fascinated with this concept. It's very wonky, but like the Overton window is the level of acceptable speech in a society, right? So before Trump was president, there was a very different level of what was acceptable when we started seeing
Yeah.
Nazis march in the street because the Overton window had been moved to the right. The
Okay.
problem is whenever the Democrats run a centrist candidate, they're pushing the Overton window to the right and pushing the Republicans to become more extreme in order to differentiate themselves from the Republican light person that is running against them.
Sure.
And so as a result, now we have this very strange political situation where we have two right-wing parties. The Democrats are not a left-wing
Nope.
party.
They're right. Yep.
And the people who are on the left, who the Overton window's gone too far for now, who are saying, no, that's too far against my principles.
Mm.
We are not understood by those people. We're being ridiculed. We're angry. But the thing is, I'm convinced we're on the right side of history. I'm convinced that cruelty is never the right side of history. So, like, yeah, arguing for Medicare for all, right side of history, especially now. I don't care about the politics of it. There's the decency of it.
Right.
That's
And
what it
that's
boils down
something
to.
we can all probably,
Yeah, and
all
those
agree
of us
on.
who've been suffering and who've been living in poverty are there in part because Democrats have said, moderate Democrats have said for years, oh, we can't do that. We can't get that accomplished. We can't make that happen. The Republicans won't. The Republicans won't. Well, we're seeing the Democrats write House bills
Mm.
before Republicans have anything to do with them that are still too far to the right, that are still not taking care of people, that are still not what we need. And
Mhm.
I'm terrified with Biden running who the next Trump is. What kind of, look at how this Trump made George W. Bush a war criminal who is
Right.
literally not allowed to travel outside the country. Do you know that? He will be arrested by international law. He will be put in the Hague. So, like, he's a war criminal, and now he's a cute, doddering old man that Michelle Obama hands candy to, and he does paintings.
Hmm.
I mean, he's been rehabilitated because the Overton window went further right than where he was.
Mhm.
That Trump made him look like a Boy Scout.
Mhm.
And the next Trump is going to make people nostalgic for this Trump, and it's going to be creepy.
Oh, don't do that to oh my God.
It's just fact. Like, it's just how the thing works. And we have to break that somehow. Somehow we have to break that. And I am worried that people are going to go, okay, third party this time. People do not understand the structural impediments that are in place to third parties winning. But we
Mhm.
can break this. We can get out of it. And the deal is that we have to start thinking of the left as not part of the Democrats, as its own thing, and start building a broader coalition of progressives
Mhm.
that can hopefully come together and stop fighting with each other. Like, this is where it's just, there's so much naivete and people are so pie in the sky about things. So it's like they're so emotional and they're so passionate. And I understand that passion and I feel it too, but like, it's not how politics works. It's not, that level of idealism is not the time we're in. It might have been one time, but it's not now. So I don't know. I hope we can change it. I hope we can break it. I'm looking forward to November 4th
Yeah.
because this is just a shit show and it's all it's going to be,
It
you know.
seems like too far away. That date seems
It's
too far away.
everything. Yeah, it's weird how time is moving fast and has stopped at the same time. It's like,
Mhm.
it's so strange.
It's one thing that's been bugging me is people are calling this the new normal. And I feel that, you know, feelings, whatever, woo woo, whatever. I feel like we're on a ferry or in a bus station or in a train station.
Limbo. We're in
Yeah, it's a
limbo.
limbo. It's a non-place. It's not supposed to be normal.
See, but I think it's a mistake personally for me to give into that feeling,
To the
because when I
limbo
think about
feeling
it, huh?
or to the limbo feeling or the new normal feeling?
To the limbo feeling, because that's been my life for many years. I was in limbo when I lived in the warehouse. I was in limbo when I was getting divorced. I was in limbo when I was
Mhm.
in grad school. And this is my life now. And if this is what normal is, it doesn't really affect the core parts of my life, which is who I love and what I make and what I think about and what I do with my time. And I don't want, when people say, let's go back to normal, I don't want that either. Normal
No.
was damaging, normal was horrible.
Yeah,
And
but
this
and
isn't the new
it's
normal.
yeah.
If people would take it seriously and actually like do what they're supposed to do. I mean, Taipei is already almost back to normal. I mean, there's changes, of course. There's things that are going to be different, but Taipei, Taiwan, those countries, South Korea, they've been able to like manage this in part because the kinds of societies they have compared to us and our Wild West individualistic nonsense, but in part too because they had functional governments, they had functional systems, and right now we are so broken, and all the cracks are showing, and all the brokenness is
Right.
showing,
That's
and
that's what I'm
most of the
saying. It's
people,
like this can't be the new normal. This can't
I
be
mean, it might be significantly better than the new normal is what scares me,
what
like
might
that's
be.
what frightens me, that we don't know what's to come, and it could be horrible and it could be good. But then I also learned about the Holocaust from people with tattoos on their arms, and so I've kind of always expected the worst in a way. And like
Mm.
I think it's just built into the Jewish identity in a way to like expect the worst, expect that something horrible could happen, but also we don't choose what happens, but we choose how we rise to that occasion and how we respond to it and what we make meaningful.
Mhm.
And I was really bolstered at the beginning of all this when I was having anxiety dreams and freaking out a lot. Um, by Naomi Klein made this really great video. I think I sent it to you. And like she talks about how in these moments of crisis, it's the ideas that are lying around that
Mhm.
people turn to. And we just have to make sure as culture producers and as creatives that the ideas that are lying around are worthy of the time and are appropriate to this time. And our job is to make sure our community is okay. Our job is to look after our people. And so we can think about like the new normal as being like, oh my God, this is horrible. But we can also think about the new normal as like, the new normal is when you need money, somebody Venmos you some. The new
Yeah.
normal is like if you have extra food, you bring it to a friend. The new normal is that our students look to us for more than teaching, but also like maybe emotional guidance. The new norm, but unfortunately with that, the new normal is also exploitation as it was, as the old normal was. The new normal is
Yeah.
a lot of things. And unfortunately, the new normal is not meted out evenly. So I think that there are people who are sacrificing quite a bit in order to give people, I'm flabbergasted in a way that I have the privilege to stay home. I'm blown away by that because
Yeah.
most of my life that wouldn't have been true. And it's only since I've gotten my graduate degree that suddenly, oh, wait, I'm in a low page exploitative job, but it gets to stay home.
Mhm.
And my school is actually giving us the choice if we want to stay home in the fall. And I think I do because what they're asking us to do feels unreasonable. It's going to be like teaching 2 classes for the price of 1. So I think I might stay online. But having that privilege for the first time in my life, having money in the bank when an
Right.
emergency hits has never happened to me before, ever. I'm flabbergasted. And it's all from art. It's all from having a good art show last year. It's a very unusual circumstance for me.
Yeah.
All of this is not privilege I'm used to having, and I feel really guilty. Like ordinarily I would be one of the people in the front lines working, in my previous life before grad school. So I hope I'm trying to make the best of that by trying to help people and trying to do things I can. But it's weird and overwhelming because I think that one of the things that I can do is be a voice for those people that
Right.
don't have the energy in their Maslow's hierarchy to be a voice for themselves.
Right.
You know? Like, I've been fighting this whole idea of like, we're all in this together since the beginning. It's like, no, we're not. You're staying at home, binge shopping and watching Netflix and eating edibles. These people are risking their lives so you can have food, you know? That, like, the consciousness and awareness of that is like just big to me, you know? And the only people I see complaining are the privileged people. Have you noticed that? The people with the most privilege, the sort of middle manager people who are staying home getting paid to do nothing,
Mm.
are the loudest complainers about this situation.
Yeah,
Weird to
I
me.
think, you know, like working class folks, those of us who are essential, there's a certain level of resignation, and it might have come before because it's always been some people. I'm really heartbroken about some people who are like, oh, they're just terrible people and they need to admit that they're terrible people because they're going to work. And I'm like, the thing is when you're working class and poor working class, you know that if you don't go to work, you will not eat, you know, and you will not be able to help your family or pay the bills or pay your rent. And that's something that frustrates me a lot, is people don't see that part. They're like, you're putting us all in danger. And
No, the people who want to go out and get haircuts are putting the people who
yeah,
have to work in danger. And that's what
yeah,
makes me mad, is only the people doing the, you know, these AstroTurf protests are all very privileged. Nobody's saying that there, you don't see working class and poor people there. You see $50,000 trucks, you know, and people holding up signs about haircuts and the, oh God, and poor hairdressers. I mean, the restrictions put on them are so onerous, and
mm-hmm.
they've already not been working, and they're supposed to spend all this extra money on PPE and plastic wrap, and the environmental cost of what we're doing too is horrifying. But
Right.
I feel like, you know, um, the sad thing about it is, what I wish I saw instead of people resigning themselves to going back to work was people doing a general strike and joining together and saying, no, we're not dying for capitalism. We're
And
demanding that our government take care of us the way other
the thing
governments take
is
care of their people.
when you're like skin of your teeth month to month, you're not thinking about a
Oh,
strike.
I know. Well, that's why they keep us in this place. That's why they've kept wages flat for 45 years.
Yeah.
It's very deliberative.
And it doesn't make
And
people a terrible person. It's their that's their surviving in the construct that we live in.
actions make people terrible people, not thoughts. Actions. Thoughts come from ignorance. Actions come from hate, but thoughts come from ignorance, you know, and honestly, like, I hope we can someday get past the sort of cancel culture. I know I've been guilty of it too, of just being like, I can't deal with this person anymore.
Mhm.
But I've always, when I find out somebody's racist on social media, I don't unfriend them. I draw them closer. I make them my job. I make them my responsibility to keep an eye on.
I don't anymore.
It's not your job.
Can't. I
As a
can't.
person of color, it's not your job. It's my job as a white
But
person.
as a light-skinned person of color, people expect me to be that person because they think I'm the safe bet and that
Yeah.
I will be their friend and lead them through all the things. I'm like, there are plenty of books for you to read.
Yeah,
um,
I'm not your personal Sherpa through racism.
yeah, one really amazing book, and she uses a lot of compassion too, is So You Want to Talk About Race?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce her name properly because I've never said it
I
out
know
loud,
I
but
was
I
gonna
love
avoid
her.
that. uh,
Ijeoma. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I'm going to botch it, and I don't want to, because she's a beautiful soul and I love her writing.
she's really great.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, you know, as a Jewish person, I wish I saw more people doing that on my behalf, but people don't often recognize anti-Semitism when it's happening. It's
Hmm.
very dog whistle. As a woman, I wish I saw more men doing it. Like, I've been sort of encouraged during this whole thing with Tara Reid that I've seen men actually posting about it. Now, granted, they're posting about it because they don't like Joe Biden,
Hmm.
but I don't ever see men care about these issues. And I'm I feel like, yeah, it's not women's job to end sexism. It's men who are sexist. They have access to those spaces. It's their job to end. It's not people of color's job to end racism. It's white people's job, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm in that weird liminal space between white and not white as a Jew. So I feel like I kind of have a two-sided coin with that. But like, I also just, you know, I do think that by canceling somebody, by pushing them away and saying, no, you suck, you're a racist, I put this label on you and I put you over in this box to not deal
Right.
with you, that you're breaking the bonds of community to the point that you'll never get those people back. You won't be able to call them in. And
Right.
we don't fix anything with that. We ease our pain by doing that. We ease our personal pain, but we don't fix anything, you
Mhm.
know? And we cannot, in a time of crisis, have a fragmented community. People have to stop doing this. You know, people, like, the thing that I was unfriended most for in the 2016 election was in the primaries. I saw the 7-hour lines, and I'm somebody who's followed voting rights issues since 2000, since the Gore election, when I saw that going down, the black box voting and the hanging chads and all of that. So I've followed all these issues really closely. I've followed good journalists. That's been like an area of interest for me. So when
Mhm.
I saw what was happening with the primaries, I started raising my voice and saying, this is wrong. There are 7-hour lines. All of these polling places have been closed. They gutted the Voting Rights Act. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Oh my God, there's this thing called interstate cross-check they're using. Pay attention, pay attention. And without fail, Democrats, always Democrats, and it wasn't Democrats doing it, it's Republicans doing it, but Democrats would be like, this is Bernie bro shit. You're just trying to make it look like she's cheating. And I'm like, it's gonna affect her in the fall too, idiot. Hello. Like, this is a serious situation. And I got called a conspiracy theorist. I got unfriended. I got blocked. Who was right? Who was right? And it's still happening. I still am trying to tell people our conversation, our public conversation about things is so wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I just keep going, and we were going to end this a while ago, and it's got to be really long now.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching this, Tamika.
Um, I've have people watching them.
I
Is
mean, this one's so long. I'm saying though,
I don't know. We'll see.
we could get naked at this point to see if anybody like watches it.
I'm
Then we'll
not
know.
doing that. There are naked pictures of me on the internet, but this will not be one of them.
I hope there aren't of me. I don't actually know.
Well, I chose how those images would appear, so that's, there's that.
That's fair. That's good.
Um, but yeah, thank you so much, and
Yeah, you bet.
we'll post your links in the thing below the YouTube video in the little text box.
I'll
And
send them to you.
cool.
And yeah, this was really fun. I totally started out thinking we were just gonna like hang out and chat like we always do, but this was actually kind of more of
I
a
thought I
focused,
had told
directed
you.
conversation.
Yeah, I thought I told you this is what we were doing.
No,
So,
I like the surprise of it. I would have gotten nervous otherwise.
oh,
I did a
okay.
podcast a couple weeks ago. I was very nervous beforehand, but it was fun. I liked
Where
it.
was the podcast?
It's a political podcast out of Fort Collins. I posted it on my Facebook page, and now I'm just totally blanking on the name. That's
Well,
terrible.
if you remember it, let me know. And
Yeah, I'll send you that link too.
okay. All right.
Yeah, it was fun. Maybe I have a future as a political pundit. Who knows?
All right. Well, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and close this up.
All right, good seeing you.